Mesa. Welcome to our regular City Council and Successor Agency to the Redevelopment Agency meeting for Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. Now is the time for our national anthem and Pledge of Allegiance. If all council could please mute your microphones except for Councilmember Harlan. After the national anthem, he will lead us with the pledge, and then we will have a moment of solemn silence. Mr. Bora, do we have our national anthem?
Yes, just 1 minute. He's queuing it up.
Broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming.
Please repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Now is the time for a moment of solemn expression, led by Pastor David Mann from Calvary Chapel. Ms. Green, will you please allow Pastor Mann off of mute and to lead the moment of solemn expression?
Madam Mayor, we're sorry, we don't believe he's on at this time.
Okay. I'll just ask that we all take a moment and have a moment of silence for the nearly 500,000 people who have died of COVID, and that we just take a moment to think about them and their families, especially those here in Orange County. Okay, thank you. Ms. Green, will you please call the roll by voice vote?
Councilmember Chavez.
Present.
Councilmember Gameros.
Present.
Councilmember Harlan.
Present.
Councilmember Harper.
Present.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar.
Here.
Mayor Foley.
Present. Okay, at this time, we have one presentation tonight, and that's a proclamation in recognition of Black History Month. Black History Month is in February, and whereas since 1926, during the month of February, individuals across the nation have celebrated and honored the accomplishments of Black Americans who constitute a vital role in our country's history and identity. Whereas President Gerald Ford officially recognized and observed Black History Month in 1976. And whereas the national theme for the observance of Black History Month focuses on the Black family, representation, identity, and diversity, and the rich tapestry of the African American past and present. Whereas Black Americans constitute an important part of the history and community fabric of Costa Mesa, with more than 1.8% of Costa Mesans identifying as Black or African American. And whereas we celebrate prominent Black Americans and Costa Mesans for their excellence and accomplishments. For example, we have former mayor of Costa Mesa and our honorable judge of the Orange County Superior Court, Karen Robinson, two-time Olympian Sharon Day Monroe, and Tampa Bay Buccaneer linebacker Quentin Bell, who both he and Ms. Day were both Costa Mesa High School graduates, and he is headed to the 55th Super Bowl, amongst many others in our community. Whereas the city of Costa Mesa continuously seeks to provide equal and equitable representation for all of its constituents and celebrates the diversity and identity of each of its residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Katrina Foley, do hereby proclaim February 2021 as Black History Month. Thank you. At this time, we will have public comment. Matters not listed on the agenda. You have 3 minutes for public comment. If there are speakers who would like to speak, please raise your hand with the hand raise feature or press *9 on your telephone and press *6 to be unmuted for speaking when it is your turn. If you would like city staff or the council to contact you to follow up on any item, please email the city clerk your contact information. You can email the city clerk at cityclerk@costamesaca.gov. Okay, at this time, we have one hand raised in the attendees window, and that is for the phone number ending 869. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening. The triangle square neon signage proposal, already defeated by residents once, is coming back again, this time much bigger. Please consider the information in this video and contact the Planning Commission with your input. The meeting will be on Monday, February 8th. And now if you could please play the video. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anna Verska. I grew up in Costa Mesa, and as a longtime community activist, I'd like to share some information on a proposal that could very negatively impact our quality of life. In 2010, Triangle Square brought forth a proposal for a blinking, flashing, color-changing sign at one of the most busy intersections in Costa Mesa. It would have been 1,100 square feet. The residents rightfully banded together and successfully fought the proposal on the basis that it was unsafe, among many other reasons. Fast forward to 2019. The Triangle brought forth another proposal, this time for 3 signs totaling 2,600 square feet of flashing, blinking, color-changing signs, one of which would be right here behind me. Again, these signs would be at some of the most busy intersections in Costa Mesa. They would distract motorists and imperil pedestrians and cyclists. Additionally, these signs would be so bright that they would have to be dimmed in the evening. Even with the dimming, the light pollution would negatively impact the East Side neighborhood and West Side neighborhoods, but truly, I believe, all of Costa Mesa. Additionally, Costa Mesa would give up any right as to the content of these signs. Anything could be advertised. In order to sweeten the deal, Costa Mesa has been offered 20% of the profits once the signs have been up for 3 years. In my view, this is a backroom deal to subvert an ordinance the city has that prohibits such signs. To complicate matters, Mayor Foley has taken $18,000 from the Mateen family, which are owners of the Triangle. The hearing has now been moved to mid-July at the Planning Commission so that more input could be gathered from residents. In my opinion, this is a move to try to convince residents to give up their right to a safe and comfortable community without the flashing, blinking, color-changing signage. So, the hearing will be in mid-July at the Planning Commission. Please join us and make your voice be heard. Again, it will be 3 signs that are 2,600 square feet. Even if one sign was approved, it could potentially open up the floodgates for every business wanting such signage, effectively rendering Costa Mesa, Costa Vegas. So please come out and let your voice be heard. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Barlow?
Yes, if there's no other public comment, I do
Want me
want
to wait? There's other public comments.
yeah, let's,
Okay.
yeah.
The next person to speak will be call-in user 1. If you want to press star, I'm not sure, Ms. Green, who that is. Maybe you have to.
Yes, thank you. Commenting on what the last speaker just spoke about, the triangle square, that was recorded last summer, and the Planning Commission is actually hearing it next Monday, which will be, I believe, February 8th. And when you think that the first time coming off the 55 freeway, what you're going to think of Costa Mesa are these blinking, flashing, moving billboards, and that's what they are, billboards. You can call them signs, but they're billboards. And they'll be changing colors, moving constantly every 6 seconds. The property values in the commercial and the residential, the immediate area, will be affected, as well as the quality of life in the residents. But the most important factor in this is that a third-party billboard has complete autonomous control over what's on that billboard. And they want these billboards because the advertising is very costly. They'll be making a lot of money on a project that hasn't been very profitable in the past. So the city loses all control on that billboard. So it could be anything from the McKean family, who one of the members owns Tinder. So you have no idea what's going to be on that billboard. I think we need to protect our residents. We need to protect our city. And we need to, first of all, invoke our own ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Chan. Mr. Chan, if you want to unmute yourself on your, there you go.
Ms. Reed, if you could play the first audio, the opening statement, and then play the longer one.
Okay, 1 minute, please, while we load up the video.
Oh, you've got the wrong video.
Just 1 more minute. We're still loading up the video.
I think that's the wrong video also. Ms. Green, that's the wrong video.
Do we? I'm sorry, Mr. Chan. Maybe we can play the first video and then we'll find that other video.
It's called opening statement.
Mr. Chan, we're going to play the one video that's new, and then we can show the picture. That's what we have.
Stronger.
I apologize, Mayor, for the technical difficulties. Just one more minute, please.
Take your time.
This is your hedge fund, owned and operated. Soup kitchen neighbor, smart and foul. Why are those hedge funds so mean and ornery? They gotta get that ROI. You council members are the Robin Hood in this picture. For 2 years now, you have moved heaven and earth to help put this hedge fund's warehouse in every single Center Street breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and every moment in between. Before you were Mayor Foley, our neighborhood fought this hedge fund and won, not just here in Costa Mesa, but in dozens of cities throughout California where they were economically raping disadvantaged neighborhoods, including Orange County cities like Lake Forest and Orange. Mayor Foley, did you ever warn your counterparts in these other cities of the hedge fund predator in their disadvantaged neighborhoods? I bet not. District 2 voters, she will destroy your quality of life. Her answer to problems is a social media block. Everybody knows Irvine Mayor Shea cost the city $125,000 over social media blocks. City council members, censure the mayor. Please formally request that she unblock constituents on social media. Robin Hood, keep on robbing the hood.
Miss Green, have you found our picture yet?
Yes, our video team is going to display it.
For what length of time, please? I'm totally lost track of my time.
Your time is almost up.
Evening is a joint service color guard from the military district of Washington.
That is not my audio.
And are flanked by the colors of each.
I gotta protest this, you all. This is horrible.
As well as drummers from.
I've got to protest this, that you all have refused to display the multimedia that's been provided you within the time frame allotted.
Mr. Chan, your picture is up.
Thank you, but that was not my audio at the end. Whose audio was that?
We've turned that off, Mr. Chan.
Okie dokie. Yep. What time do I have remaining?
Please complete your comments, Mr. Chan. We've been giving you lots of time. Go ahead, say everything you want to say. Please.
I've completed that, ma'am.
Continue, please.
I have completed it.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Next speaker is phone number ending in 948.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm sorry. I've got bad cell reception. I was disappointed to hear personal political punditry during city council member reports at the last city council meeting. It came across as very self-righteous and condescending. City council members were elected by and elected to serve various districts within our city. During city council member reports, rather than listening to 4 minutes of each council member's personal beliefs on national political concerns, I think it would serve everyone in the city for our council member district representatives to take this time to update news and things going on in their specific district. I know I would love to hear about a new business opening in my district, or an update on an ongoing issue, or safety concerns in a neighborhood, or a neighborhood watch meeting, a traffic light being installed, or a fundraiser, etc. These are just a few ideas, but can you imagine how informative it would be to get this information provided across all our districts? It would also benefit the public to know that our district representatives have a pulse on what is truly going on in their elected districts. So I thank you for the consideration. I hope you'll take this under advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Carl Alf. Hello, Mr. Alf. You can unmute yourself on your, there you go.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. Carl Alf, Costa Mesa resident.
Good evening.
Yes, I'm against of those billboards that's going to be built at Triangle Square. I don't want our beautiful city to be turned into Las Vegas or New York's Times Square. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Hope you're doing well. Okay, if you would like to speak at this time on items not on our agenda, please unmute yourself on your device or press *9 on your telephone. And when you're called upon, please press *6 to unmute your telephone. This is our last call. Okay, seeing no other hands raised at this time, I will close the public comment and we will turn to council member committee reports, comments, and suggestions. And we'll start with Councilmember Gameros.
Madam Mayor?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Barlow.
Yes, I apologize for interrupting. I did want to make a comment on two of the items that were addressed in the public comment. With respect to the speakers who commented on campaign contributions that had been made to Mayor Foley, I do want to point out that Mayor Foley has not participated in any way in the Triangle Square discussions, and nor has the council taken any action on that item. So to the extent that there was alleged to be some sort of influence by the mayor, that has not occurred. And then with respect to that same point, it's my understanding that the agreement that has been drafted obviously would have to be approved, but would give the city a great deal of control over the content of what goes on those signs if they are ultimately approved. And then the last item had to do with Mr. Chan's post, the picture that was posted up. The Irvine case involved Mayor Shea's personal Facebook page, as I understand it. The city of Irvine, without acknowledging any liability, decided to settle that matter. I do want to point out that the page that Mr. Chen was posting about was actually Mayor Foley's campaign page. That clearly is not a city-controlled page. The city does not speak about politics, and so I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Gameros.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So a couple of things I wanted to speak about this evening. I know that we've had most of our restaurants open up here for public outdoor dining. And while I am happy to see that there are people out recreating and taking advantage of this opportunity, It's also an opportunity to make sure that you are practicing safe distances and you're wearing your mask, because although you may be young and you may have a strong immune system, there are others who may not, and they could be affected adversely. So I just want to remind everyone to please keep that in mind when you go out. Please wear a mask. Please practice social distancing. The last thing that I would like to hear about is somebody getting sick because of somebody else's carelessness. Just today, I had another person very close to me has to take some time off of work now because both of their parents have caught what they called a bad case of COVID. And I can only imagine what that means. Right now, we have the opportunity to act responsibly while we dine out. Let's make sure that we take that opportunity and utilize our best discretion. So thank you very much, and I yield my time back.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Harlan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everyone, and happy Groundhog Day. Only thing I want to comment on tonight is just an announcement that the city will be hosting 2 workshops for the housing element coming up in 2 weeks. On the 17th and 18th, that's Wednesday and Thursday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. These are district-specific workshops. So the first night will cover districts 1, 2, and 3, and the second will be 4, 5, and 6. And I've said this several times. This is a very important effort for our city. I'll be reminding everybody in 2 weeks at our next meeting. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Harper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to tag on to some things Councilmember Gameros talked about, masks and wearing masks. And there's a lot of controversy as to whether they're effective or not. And in fact, I'm reading a book now by Al Burstyn. It's a New York Times reporter, 10 years, and he talks about a lot of the lockdowns. He talks about the masks. He talks about our testing. There's just a lot of good education in it, and I'd recommend it to people. But with regard to masks in particular, a lot of controversy whether they're effective or not. And I think it's great to wear masks. I think I want to just impart that don't be emboldened by a mask that is going to keep you completely safe and still practice social distancing and stay safe. And the last thing I want to mention is I want to appreciate everyone's effort in our strategic planning sessions on Friday. And I probably echo everybody. It was a very tight as far as timeline, and I probably echo everybody's feelings that they probably had a lot more questions than they could get time to get answered, a lot more comments than they had time for, and I just hope I think we did our best, but I hope we got it right. And as we go through and try to achieve those objectives, be thoughtful about what we decided and always make sure it's right. So that's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Reynolds.
Hi, thank you. I'll start there thanking our city manager and staff and all the council members for our retreat on Friday last week. Feels like weeks ago already. I thought it was a really good start. It was great to hear from all our staff members. I really appreciated I think it was 7 pages in the end of everyone's input on strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And agree with Councilmember Harper that I'm sort of excited for the next steps. I think we took a really good job prioritizing a few things that we need to focus on for the next 6 months, and looking forward to continued conversations on those. I wanted to share with Council a couple of meetings I attended as a liaison. So first was the Library Advisory Board meeting. This is the advisory board for the Orange County Public Library System. They shared their annual report and a couple of interesting pieces of information. One, this year, 2021, is the 100th year of the Orange County Public Library System, which I thought was incredible. And even though things are still distanced, we can't have large celebrations. They're going to be rolling out sort of a celebrations throughout the year to honor the 100th year. The date of the anniversary is, oh shoot, I didn't write it down. I think September 21st. 2021. I'll confirm that, but it'd be great if we could maybe do something. I don't know what will be safe at that point, but it'd be great to celebrate the 100th year anniversary at our new library, or both our libraries. They also are focusing on 2 initiatives this year that I thought fit well with some of the priorities we've discussed in the city. One of the initiatives is a 100 books before kindergarten goal, so to really get books out to young children. And related to that, they're going to be really focused on kindergarten readiness. So they have some specific strategies around that fit in with some of the early childhood conversations we've had on this committee, on this council. Second, I attended as our appointee to the TCA. I am now on the environmental committee for the TCA. And I think today's our first day back for Cynthia D'Augusta, our Fairview Park administrator, and want to share with her some of the strategies the environmental department at TCA is using to manage some of their wildlands. So that was really interesting to see. Very quickly, I think the mayor and I, maybe some others, have gotten a number of a bit of feedback from various residents on some issues we've had with a contractor performance issues. I just want to share with any other members of the public that our staff are aware of that and working on that, and we're trying to get a sort of timeline for correction. We really appreciate the feedback from the community on those issues. And last thing, just want to thank our transportation staff. Last week, I think it was, submitted an application for a speed management workshop, which addresses another issue we hear a lot from our residents. So thanks for all that work.
Great, thank you. Great report. Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have quite a bit to share today, so I'll try to be as efficient as possible. First things first, always need to praise our staff who's working on great infrastructure in Westside Costa Mesa. Those who live on District 4 may have seen Hamilton Street being repaved today. Just want to thank our public department for doing a great job with that and make sure we have high quality streets in our district. Alongside that note, we are aware of an accident that happened on Pomona Street. We know there's speeding going on Pomona and Meyer. We have plans in the work for Meyer Street for some calming measures. Hopefully we'll see those implemented within the year. And I think will be really helpful for us to try out new strategies and to see what works in these smaller streets. You know, as residents share with me, and I share as well, you know, it's best to ensure safety in our streets, especially when there's 2 elementary schools on those streets. So thank you to staff who's working on that stuff in the background. Alongside that, I do want to echo Councilmember Harlan's request. Please attend these housing element meetings. It's really important to get your feedback. Housing is one of the most important issues in my district. I know multiple families that live in the same apartment, and we need more housing in District 4 and in Costa Mesa in general. So please attend that meeting. District 4's meeting is going to be on February 18th at 6 p.m. Your voice is really important, and we need you guys there to advocate for our community. And then alongside that, for those who need assistance, Power One is back and running strong of February. Every Saturday this month, they'll be at IKEA for curbside pickup. So if you need to get food, they don't ask questions, just pull up your car, open your trunk, and you'll get food. We know it's hard for a lot of families out there, and we'll do our best to make sure that everyone's being fed in Costa Mesa. And alongside that note, the County of Orange has finally announced their rent assistance program for families in Orange County. It's going to be open from yesterday up until February 28th. If you have more questions, you can call 211. Again, really simple, 211, or text ERA. E is an elephant, R is an Robert, A is an apple, at 898211. So please use those resources. It's our job to make sure you know they're there, and just want to reiterate how amazing it is to be able to serve our city of Costa Mesa. And for any concerns you may have in our district, please let us know, or in the city of Costa Mesa. We're here to serve you and happy to do so always. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Chavez. Mayor Pro Tem Moore.
Thank you. Good report, Councilmember Chavez. I think Mr. Setharaman's team must be pretty busy because there's some good work similarly happening in College Park right now with some sidewalks fixed up and some repaving activities. So good to see that upkeep around the city. I want to take a second to talk about IKEA. I think one of the speakers mentioned businesses, so I'll go down that rabbit hole. For those of you who weren't aware, IKEA was internationally recognized amongst all the IKEA stores in the world for their service to our city. So they've been involved in the homeless shelter, they've been involved in the soup kitchen, and they've been very involved in the food distributions, as Councilmember Chavez said. And then this week, they sort of continued that, and they were awarded a pretty significant grant from IKEA Corporate, specifically to work with Black-owned businesses in Orange County during Black History Month, finding ways to promote them and to contribute to their businesses and to sort of lift them up. So if you know of a business that you want to support, that you think IKEA could help out in any way, please let me know and I can put you in touch with the folks at IKEA. So I thought that was kind of a cool story and a good way to kick off Black History Month. May 15th is Love Costa Mesa Day, so Trellis is at it again. If you've got a neighbor who needs help with their lawn or some cleanup, or if you see a fence that needs to get painted or something that's kind of, you walk by day to day and think, somebody should fix that up. Well, this is our time for us to be the somebodies and to do something to fix it. So again, if you've got an idea, please shoot it my way. I can connect you with the right folks. We can figure out what needs to get done, how much it's going to cost, and then we can create it as a project on May 15th. And also for city staff, if there's something that you want to get done around the city that you need some volunteer help with, this is the time. Other businesses, I think this is technically in Councilmember Reynolds' district, but there's a new coffee shop on Harbor called The Original Barista. They make their chai homemade. It's not a syrup, it's delicious. You should check it out. And then last but not least, on a more serious note, I've had 3 different calls this week, mostly from seniors who have experienced fraud in some way. So this looks like a telephone call that says there's something wrong with your credit card. I need you to max it out by the end of the day so we can close it properly, which I know seems like a far-fetched pitch, but then they convince you to go buy gift cards in order to max out your card. And that's like one of the common ones going around. So just had a quick conversation with the chief before this, and it sounds like maybe we can get a couple of PSAs out there to spread the word with folks about what those calls sound like. It's tax season, so there's a lot of them that start with you owe tax money, wire your money here. And I just, please spread the word with your sort of neighbors and family and friends that this is a thing that is happening a lot. So if they hear that it's fraud, they're less likely to fall for it when the call comes. I had a personal friend be victimized by this to the tune of $15,000 recently. Very smart person, but these folks are very convincing on the phone. So please be aware and spread the word that that is happening with increasing frequency. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for updating us on that. And that's good advice. Just to follow up on that, if any utility company asks you to go buy a gift card to pay for utilities, that's also a scam. So please don't fall for that. Okay, so we've all been doing a lot of good work in the community. I've got some updates as well. This week was the ACCOC, which is our Association of Cities in Orange County. We normally would travel to Sacramento and meet with different legislatures on issues that are legislative and funding priorities for Orange County cities. But since we're in the COVID world, we all Zoomed over the last 2 days. And so we had an opportunity to talk with a variety of different agency representatives, assembly people, senators, and lobbyists, and people who are giving us updates on what's happening with the pending legislation. We covered issues such as housing, budget, pensions, vaccines, and sea level rise. So we had a full discussion over 2 days. It was very helpful. And we shared what I shared with everyone was our goal that we needed to have a little bit more time to do a better quality housing element and to have more community engagement because of the impacts from COVID, and that all cities could benefit by getting more time. And maybe there was an opportunity to give some kind of a milestone update in the October time period, and then be able to continue to work on the housing element plans, given that there's just so much to get done in such a short period of time, and we've all been impacted in such a grand way with COVID. So I shared it with everyone that would listen, and so maybe that'll help move the dial a little bit. Unlikely, but at least we tried. We also had our Travel Costa Mesa board meeting today, and I'm pleased to report that the Travel Costa Mesa board made some significant cuts to their budget given the impacts to the hospitality and the hotels, and actually ended up ending the year after audit with more than $200,000 over budget, that they, not over budget, but with above the line. So they did a good job of projecting, and they had a little bit of extra at the end. They're going to apply now for the new PPP that is opened up for paycheck protection to be able to cover some salaries and rent. That wasn't something that they could apply for before because of their nonprofit status, and that's been opened up with this new tranche. So that's good news. Attended the Shelter Advisory Committee meeting last week, and we had a great update from our team, and really excited to hear about Yale opening up the Yale site with 425 beds that will serve our central spa and that we'll be able to refer directly to, and that our FEMA trailer that we received from the state of California is being used for us to be able to isolate individuals before they go into our shelter, because that's how we are keeping no COVID cases in our homeless shelter here in Costa Mesa, which I think we should just all be very proud of the good work that our team is doing to make that happen, because that's hard in this environment. And then we also got an update today from our state treasurer, Fiona Ma. She provided us with information about there is a $15 billion surplus, and of course, everyone's running around trying to figure out how to spend it. I hope that they will just prioritize economic recovery and COVID and send the money to businesses to get everyone back on track. She also referred us to, from my notes, a website that her team has stood up where you can get a lot of information about grants and other opportunities to help with your business, and also a COVID resource guide with webinars, etc. So you can go to www.treasurer.ca.gov. And if anyone has any questions, you can just send it to askfiona@treasurer.ca.gov. So that was a really helpful session. Had a chance to speak with the governor's office this week. Now they've assigned someone to our city, which is nice. And of course, the thing that I asked for was more vaccine, because the only way we're going to get out of this situation is if we get more vaccine. So I'm hopeful that we can get that going. Speaking of vaccine and scams, you are not required to pay for any vaccinations. The vaccination is free. It is offered by our local hospitals, our CVS and Walgreens pharmacies. It's offered at community centers. It's offered at Disneyland and SoCa, and at someday, it'll soon be offered at the Orange County Fairgrounds. However, it's never something that you have to pay for. So if anyone is requiring you or asking you to pay to get vaccinated, that is a scam. You should report that right away. Call the police department or report it to the DA. We don't want our residents to be taken advantage of. A couple exciting businesses that have come online. We have a new vineyard in Costa Mesa on Newport Boulevard, of all places. So that's exciting. And then we also have the new Audi dealership that has already sold a lot of cars, which is nice. And they opened during COVID, so progress continuing to be made. As it relates to outdoor dining and the outdoor areas that were set up in our temporary use permit process, I know we extended it to December of 2020. I hope that we will look at that in the, before the end of the year, and maybe sometime in the fall, and talk about how can we formalize and make some component of that permanent. I think many of us feel that we enjoy the ability to sit outside and the extra space outside for some of the favorite restaurants in Costa Mesa. And I know many on our economic recovery team calls have asked for that. So I want to make sure that you all knew that. And then finally, I'm really sad to report Chris Leahy, who was a Sonora Elementary mom and Costa Mesa High School graduate, in her 40s, died this last week from COVID. And so it's very heartbreaking. There's a GoFundMe page for her set up and for her family. She's got, she leaves behind several children, and her mom is a longtime Costa Mesa resident as well. So our heart goes out to her, and we hope that you all will go to the GoFundMe page and help her family. And that's my report for tonight. So we'll move on to City Manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Good evening, everyone. I just had a couple of things to update you all on. First, just a point of reflection. It's been a year since COVID began, and it was in the month of February that we actually held an unprecedented press conference here in the city of Costa Mesa for the COVID issues that we were struggling with as a city, the first city in the nation to have to deal with anything related to the coronavirus and the transfer of the Diamond Princess cruise ship, asymptomatic COVID-19 positive passengers to Fairview Developmental Center. Just quite a year it's been, and it seems like it's been much more than just a year, but we were right at the forefront of this issue right from the very beginning. At that time, I recall maybe there were 8 cases in the entire country and no deaths, and a year later we're at 26 million cases in just 12 months and 442,000 deaths. And so it's been it's unprecedented and historic, and something that we've never dealt with before. Those are all understatements. I think on a positive note, I just wanted to thank our city leadership, our city council, our mayor, and our executive team, and our partners at every level. While the road to managing the pandemic has been very bumpy and at times very frustrating for all of us, at least I feel like now we have some light at the end of the tunnel. We're very excited about Operation Independence and the vaccine distribution. Operation Independence is the name that the county healthcare agency has given to the effort to vaccinate as many Orange County residents as possible by July 4th so that we can have a summer, so we can bring back some normalcy into our lives and be able to enjoy our lives as we knew them just a year ago. Unfortunately, there are many families that are still grieving, and for them, their lives will never be quite the same. And so I think during this time of reflection, this time of, and thank you, Mayor, for the moment of silence today. And also, as we move forward with the vaccine distribution efforts, let's all be reminded that as we move on, there are still many families that are not moving on at quite the same way that we are. And so, working very closely with mental health partners as well to make sure that employees and residents have the resources that they need to be able to adjust to the new without some of their loved ones. On a positive note, the regional stay-at-home order has been lifted, and that means that many aspects of our businesses are able to function again. Notably, our restaurants are able to go back to outdoor dining, and so that's been very positive. And the lockdown worked as it relates to reducing the number of hospitalizations and ICU rates. And so that's a very good thing. Before this call, I was on the phone with Frank Kim, CEO of the county, and working very closely with Dr. Chow. We have been able now to get our numbers down quite a bit in the county as it relates to hospitalizations. And so at the peak, we were at about 2,270 hospitalizations and 545 people in the ICU. And today we're down to 1,330 individuals hospitalized and 370 in the ICU. Still too many, but we're headed in the right direction. And in 4 weeks, we're anticipating that our ICUs will have capacity again and even be as close to 33% capacity. What that means is that our hospital care system can also participate in the vaccine distribution. And so you'll be hearing more, hopefully, from your healthcare providers about vaccine availability. There was an actual press release that was issued by the White House today to get millions of vaccines out to our healthcare providers and also to our local pharmacy chains. And so through CVS, through Walgreens, Costco, Sam's Club, Ralph's, and Albertsons. And so vaccines are becoming more available. It's still too slow. It hasn't been enough just yet, but trust that every effort at every level of government is being made to get vaccines out to the public as quickly as possible through a variety of means. On our website, you can register for the Othina.com app so that you can be registered for a vaccine through the Orange County Healthcare Agency, but please avail yourselves through your pharmacy. If you have pharmaceutical needs, please register onto CVS or to Walgreens or Rite Aid, whichever pharmacy that you use for your regular prescriptions or your occasional pharmaceutical needs, whether it's Costco, whether it's Sam's Club, etc. Those are all going to be used as additional channels through the United States government to get vaccines out to you, and then also through your primary care physicians or other healthcare providers. Memorial Care and Hoag are working very closely with the Orange County Healthcare Agency as well, and they'll be receiving additional vaccine supply now that hospitalization rates are down and physicians and nurses can be redeployed to participate at a greater level in the vaccination distribution efforts. At the local level, right here in Costa Mesa, I'm happy to say that at some point we will likely have a super pod and a vaccine point of distribution, not today, but hopefully in the near future. So we are working very closely with the Orange County Healthcare Agency to make sure that when that is positioned and there's sufficient vaccine supply, that we can get that up and running and hopefully be the third of the point of distribution sites for vaccinations. Of course, Disneyland and also Soka University are providing vaccines now, and those sites are up already as we speak. But again, many efforts being made at different levels of government to get the vaccines out. And then this weekend on Sunday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., we will have the opportunity to have Hoag partner with our senior center to have 200 seniors vaccinated. This is on a registration only basis. And the Senior Center is working very closely with our local seniors that participate in our Senior Center programs. This is for low-income seniors in particular to address their needs and also the most high risk. And so there's going to be a vetting process to establish risk levels and make sure that these 200 vaccines go to the seniors that need it the most. And then we'll have a waiting list for additional vaccinations when additional vaccines are ready. And so we're starting to get the vaccines out as much as possible through the healthcare agency. As you know, we don't have an individual supply of vaccines as a city, but again, many different mechanisms to get the vaccines out to everyone as quickly as possible. And we'll continue those efforts. So happy to have Hoag partner with our senior center to have that going. And there'll be a larger clinic for our seniors later in the month, towards the end of the month, and we'll get that information out as well. And so there's a bright spot on the horizon. Hospitalizations are down, ICU rates down, vaccines are coming, and then hopefully we'll have a third vaccine approved by the FDA from Johnson & Johnson, which is a single dose vaccine, which will help expedite the number of people being vaccinated. As you know, Moderna and Pfizer are 2-dose vaccines, which complicates matters, and they have different protocols and different timeframes for revaccination for that second dose. And so looking forward to an additional vaccine to be provided to the public and to get that out as soon as possible as well. So please rest assured that every effort's being made to try to expedite vaccines as much as possible so that Operation Independence is successful and we can have a summer that more closely resembles what we've all grown so accustomed to. And then just wanted to stress again, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program for needy families, up to $10,000 in assistance available. Thank you, Councilmember Chavez, for talking about that. And that's, you can participate in terms of getting your application in 3 different ways, either online through www.era.211.org. That's www.era.211.org, or call 211. That's pretty simple. Just call 211 or text ERA to 898-211. Please avail yourself of this great program for emergency rental assistance, up to $10,000 again, and grants available to eligible households. And so those are all the updates that I had for you all this evening. That ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One thing I forgot to mention, you can also go to the state website and to myturn.ca.gov, and you can quickly register. You'll get all kinds of updates about vaccines and where they are available in all throughout California, and also updates on the status of vaccines. It's very simple. I registered. I got an immediate response, both a text message and an email. So there's not a lot of waiting. So I encourage you to go to myturn.ca.gov and check that out. And then let me see. I think we have a report from our city attorney, Ms. Barlow.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I wanted to let the public know that the governor did sign a bill last Friday that extends the moratorium on residential evictions related to COVID through the end of June of 2021. It does require payment of 25% of the rent due between September and June, no later than June. You can take a look at the bill. We'll be getting a memo out to staff so that they can update the website on that shortly. But that has been extended. That was due to expire on Sunday. That does not extend the commercial eviction moratorium authorization, which currently expires at the end of March. And the other thing that I wanted to comment on was the fraud calls. I actually got a call myself today from someone claiming that there was unusual activity relating to my Social Security number. And if I just wanted to press 1, they would explain to me what was going on so that I could get it taken care of. The Social Security Administration does not call you. They don't call you. So if you're getting calls from the Social Security Administration, it's a fraud. If the Social Security Administration wants to connect with you, they will send you a letter, and it will have the Social Security office letterhead and signia, etc. on it, and they will actually know your Social Security number. The people who call you saying they're the Social Security are going to ask you for your Social Security number to confirm that they have the right person, and that's how they do their scam. So thank you for raising that, Mayor Pro Tem Mar. There are a number of those happening right now, and it is very sad. A lot of people are getting that in a whole variety of ways, and COVID has only made it worse. That's all I have tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. You reminded me of something else. Right now, people are getting their stimulus relief payments. Some people are getting the payments directly into their bank accounts. Others are receiving a card, and it's coming from an envelope that may not look like it's from the IRS. So please be on the alert for those. It looks like it almost looks like junk mail. So just be really careful when you're going through your mail. Don't throw everything away. Make sure if you feel a card in there that looks like it's official, open that, because those are the stimulus payment cards. And so we don't want people to miss out on receiving their stimulus payment because they threw it away. So look into that. Okay, next item of business is our consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon in one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the council, a member of the staff, or a member of the public has requested that an item be pulled for discussion and removed from the consent calendar. Ms. Green, did we have any items pulled prior to the meeting?
Madam Mayor, we have no items pulled.
Okay, if you are an attendee to the meeting and you'd like to pull an item, please raise your hand with the hand raise feature at this time, or press *9 on your telephone. Okay, seeing no one. Council, please raise your hand if you'd like to make a motion on the consent calendar. Councilmember Chavez.
To approve all items on consent calendar.
Okay, is there a second? Mayor Pro Tem Mar. Okay, call for the question by voice vote.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Green, before we finish taking the vote, I will be recusing myself from any items on the warrant register that relate to payments from the firm Everett Dory.
thank you. Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Camaros,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, at this time, and I just want to check in with Councilmember Harper. I know you were struggling, so are we good?
Yes, I'm on my phone and our power's out and it looks like Huntington Beach's power's out, but I'm
Oh
on.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what happened. I didn't realize that's what happened.
My flashlight lighting's very good though, so.
Okay.
I'll be honest, it's better than all of ours here, so
Thanks for
I think you're good.
committed. Okay. At this time, we have one public hearing item tonight, but I'm going to ask that this item be moved to the end of the agenda because I have a conflict with this item because I am in the middle of building an accessory dwelling unit and my application is pending. So I'm going to recuse myself. So if we could have a motion to move this item to after our appointments. Councilmember Chavez?
I move to move public hearing item number 1 after new business number 1.
Would be after new business number, is it number 1?
Number 1.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
Okay, call for the question by voice vote.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Camaros,
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have no old business, and so we have one new business item tonight. Ms. Green, will you please read the title?
Thank you. This is appointments to the Parks, Arts, and Community Services Commission and to various city committees. Okay, let's get this going here. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight for your consideration are appointments to the Parks, Arts, and Community Services Commission for all districts and one at-large mayor's appointment. Also are appointments to various city committees. Staff recommends to take public comments first, then appointments to the commission, and each committees be considered and voted on separately. This concludes the presentation. However, when making the appointments, we will be displaying a PowerPoint slide for each committee to assist in the appointment process. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, we can proceed to public comments.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Does anyone have any questions about the process for tonight? Okay, seeing no one. One thing I would just, I'll say that afterwards. We'll open this item up for public comment. And if you'd like to speak to this item, please indicate so by raising your hand in the hand raise feature on your computer or pressing *9 on your telephone. And we press *6 after you're called on. Anyone wishing to this item, please raise your hand in the hand raise feature, press *9 on your telephone. Okay. Seeing no one, we will close public comments. And what I would recommend is that it's up to individual council members, but as we go through them, if you think that there's somebody that's already been appointed and you had them on a list that you were going to appoint to another committee, we had so many applicants and there's so many people who want to get involved that maybe we not have multiple people appointed to multiple committees, but that's up to the individual council members, just a recommendation. Just maybe think about having a backup plan. Okay, we're going to start with Parks, Arts, and Community Services Commission. And so at this time, we will ask for a motion from District 1. Councilmember Harper.
Thank you, Mayor Foley. I'd like to make a motion to nominate Scott Glab for District 1.
Okay, if there is a second, please indicate. Councilmember Chavez.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Councilmember Harlan?
Yes, just a quick note. Are we doing public comment or are we going to wait until committee appointments?
We already did public comment.
Sorry.
That's okay. Nobody wanted to comment. Okay. Call for the question as it relates to District 1 representative on the Parks, Arts, and Community Services Commission, Scott Glab.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Yes, thank you.
Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, next is District 2, Councilmember Gameros. May I have a motion, please?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to nominate Cassius Rutherford.
Okay, Councilmember Chavez.
I second the motion.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, please call for the question by voice vote.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros,
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, next up is Mayor Pro Tem Mar for District 3.
I'll move to appoint Quentin Pullen.
Okay, I'll second. And any further discussion? Seeing none, call for the question by voice vote.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, next we have Councilmember Chavez for District 4.
Of course, I have my other list. I had Quincy for another committee as well. I would like to nominate Stanley Garcia for Parks Commission.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second.
Second.
Okay, motion by Chavez, second by Reynolds, and call for the question by voice vote.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros,
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, Councilmember Reynolds, District 5.
Move to nominate Angeli Vallarta for Parks Commissioner District 5.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Councilmember Harlan seconded. Councilmember Reynolds motion. Call for the question by voice vote.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, Councilmember Harlan, District 6.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to nominate Liz Dorn Parker as the appointment for District 6.
I'll second. Motion by Councilmember Harlan, second by Mayor Pro Tem Mar, and call for the question by voice vote.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros,
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, and then finally, I'd like to make a motion for reappointment of Charlene Ashendorf as the mayor's appointee and
Second.
focus on arts.
Second.
Okay, second by Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Mar. Call for the question.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, wonderful. We will look forward to a lot of new voices on our Parks, Arts, and Community Services Commission, and looking forward to hearing from all of you. For those of you who applied, we had so many applicants. We hope that you'll stay involved and participate in volunteering in our city and many of the different ways we have available. So Animal Services Committee is up next. And Ms. Green, do you want to read the title?
Thank you. This is appointments to the Animal Services Committee. The liaison is Councilmember Gameros. And this is to make 4 regular appointments for terms expiring April 2022 and 3 regular appointments for vacancies, terms expiring April 2023, and make 2 alternate appointments to fill vacancies with terms expirations of April 2022.
Okay, Councilmember Gameros, as the liaison, do you have a list of appointments?
Yes, I do. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Becca Walls, Alyssa McKay, Jay Litvek, Andrea Pike, Linda Kwan, Angelia Minjares, Nicole Dunger, Diana Gardner, and Steve Parker.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar seconds. Ms. Green, does Councilmember Gameros need to tell you who will fill the 6 regular terms and the 3 that expire April 22 versus April 2023?
Yes, Councilmember Gameros, can you tell me we'll just start at the top, the 4 regular members whose terms would expire April 2022?
Yes, the 4 regular members are going to be Alyssa McKay, Jay Litvak, and Linda Kwan.
I need one more, please.
Oh, and Angela Minjares.
Okay, thank you. And then 3 members whose terms expire April 2023, please.
So for 2023, Becca Walls, Nicole Dunger, Diana Gardner.
Thank you. And then the last 2 individuals would be the alternates.
Steve Parker and
Pike.
is that right? Yeah.
Andrea Pike.
What's that?
Andrea Pike.
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Call for the question.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Next up is the Bike and Walkability Committee. And so that will be Councilmember Harlan. Do you have a list of recommended committee appointments?
I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to say I'm very excited to serve as the council liaison for this committee. I know it's been a very active and strong committee last couple of years, and it's done some really solid work. So I'm looking forward to continuing that. I'll start with the one-year appointments, Miranda. So I'd like to Ralph Taboda, Richard Huffman, Cynthia McDonald, Flo Martin, Bridget Gleason, and Michael Moses Nolf. And then for the 2-year appointments, I'd like to nominate Brian Estrada, Jim Erickson, David Martinez, Emily Webb, and Trace Yulee. And if the council would indulge, I want to suggest 2 alternates for this committee. And that would be Jimmy Vivar and John Lux, both of which would serve a 1-year term.
Okay, is there a second? Councilman Chavez.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, please call for the question by voice.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, next is the Cultural Arts Committee. And that would be Councilmember Gameros.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Charlene Ashendorf, Rocky Evans, Stephanie Wenning, Andrea Pike, Frank Gutierrez, Aureli Ocampo, Andrea Bravo Campbell, Justina Yasa, Cassidy Berliner, and Mark Cleveland.
Okay, is there a second?
Councilmember Gameros,
Councilmember Chavez.
Councilmember
second it,
Gameros.
but-
Is that a second? Okay.
Brenda, go ahead.
Okay, so Councilmember Gameros, can we go through the list and can you tell the council and Ms. Green who you want to appoint for the 2022 term ending in 2022 and the term ending in 2023?
Yes. So Charlene Ashendorf, Rocky Evans, Stephanie Wenning, and Anthony Monrique will terminate in 2022. And then the rest will be 2023.
Okay, and Councilmember Gameros, I have you to make 11 appointments and you've only listed 10. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Excuse me, you're good.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar.
Would the maker of the motion consider adding Selena Mendoza? There's no representation from District 3 right now, so I'd like to substitute her in, but I don't have a preference for who you remove.
Yes.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, are you asking him to add someone or to remove someone and replace?
Add someone and remove someone because we asked to stay at 11. So I'd like to add Selena Mendoza, but I don't have a preference for who gets removed.
Madam Mayor?
Hold on one second, one question at a time. Councilmember Gameros, what's your response on that? And then I have Councilmember Harlan in the queue, and then I'll call on Councilmember Reynolds.
Okay, I'm okay with that. We can remove Anthony Monrique and add Councilmember Marr's recommendation.
Okay. Councilmember Chavez, as the second, do you concur?
Yes.
Okay. Then I had Councilmember Harlan.
Yes, I just wanted to note, I believe I heard Andrea Pike's name mentioned twice. I think she had already been approved for a prior committee as well as this one. So I just wanted to, maybe Ms. Green can correct me if that was in fact done.
Yes, Councilmember Harlan. She was appointed to the other committee, but individuals can serve on separate committees as long as they do not conflict with each other.
Right. So I just wanted the maker of the motion as well as Councilmember Gameros to be aware of that. I have no preference. I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, so Ms. Pike was appointed to the Animal Services Committee, and she's been recommended for appointment to Cultural Arts Committee. Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, I was going to make the same note as Councilmember Harlan. So I might make the recommendation that instead of replacing Anthony Manrique, we replace Andrea Pike with Selena, just to increase different bodies on committees.
Councilmember Gameros.
So,
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Councilmember Chavez.
I agree. Second approves.
So just for the record, so we're clear, Charlene Ashendorf for term ending 2022, Rocky Evans for term ending 2022, Stephanie Wenning for term ending 2022, Anthony Manrique for term ending 2022, Selena Mendoza for term ending 2023, and Frank Gutierrez for term ending 2023, Areli Ocampo for term ending 2023, Andrea Bravo Campbell for term ending 2023, Justina Yasa for term ending 2023, Cassidy Berliner for term ending 2023, and Mark Cleveland for term ending 2023. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And one more clarification, please. I need the two alternates. Who you would like the two alternates to be whose terms expire April 2023?
Cassidy Berliner and Justina Yasa.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, call for the question by voice vote.
Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes.
Councilmember Harper?
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan?
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Marr?
Yes.
Mayor Foley?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, next up is the Fairview Park Steering Committee, 6 appointments, and this will be Councilmember Reynolds.
Thank you. And thank you to all of the applicants who applied. As with many of the other committees, we had a wealth of experienced, energetic candidates, and I wish we could invite them all to join. So thanks to everyone who applied, and I'm sure there'll be opportunities for folks to get involved, even if they are not appointed tonight. Also, just want to share that I did chat with our Fairview Park administrator to get her input as well, based on the goals and work she needs to get done over the next couple years. So, Brenda, you ready?
Yes.
I'm going to assume Brenda's ready.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Okay.
Please go ahead. Yes.
So for the 4-year, I'm going to start with the 4-year appointments. Andrew Campbell, Eric Roberts, Emily McLean, and Shannon Levin. And then we have one 2-year alternate, Kara Raffel, and one 4-year alternate, Jeffrey Butcher.
And then Councilman Reynolds, are you maintaining the liaisons?
Oh, thank you. We didn't have that. There it is. Yes, and then based on my conversation with our Fairview Park administrator, we recommend that liaison position be a 1-year appointment. So Hank Castagnetti as the OCMU liaison for 1 year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Chavez.
I'll let Mr. Gameros take this one.
Okay, Councilmember Gameros.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Call for the question by voice vote.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, the next item is our Finance and Pension Advisory Committee. We meet. Okay. So for the, I'm gonna say it and then I have the term attached. Adam Arith for 2022 term, Ralph Taboda for 2023 term, John Stevens for 2023 term, Gabriel Godinez for 2022 term, Phil D'Agostino for 2023 term, Kip Hancock for 2022 term, Wendy Lease for 2022 term, Boris Greasley for 2023 term, and Tom Arnold for 2023 term.
Second.
Is there a second? Councilmember Reynolds, second. Any further discussion? Ms. Green, did you need anything else? I don't think we have.
No, Madam Mayor, I'm ready for the roll call vote.
Okay. Go proceed.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros,
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Historical Preservation Committee, Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And as everyone's repeating, I want to thank everyone who applied for the committee. And here are my nominations. For the, give me 1 second. Gotta change out Adam because he got appointed to something else. Give me 1 second, everyone. Okay. So for the 4-year expiration, April 2022, I have Mary Ella Godard, John McQueen, David Gardner, and Karen McKenna Jurgens. For the 2 alternate
I'm
members
sorry,
expiring.
Councilmember Chavez, could you go a little slower for me, please?
Yeah, my apologies. I have Mary Ellen Godard, John McQueen, David Gardner, and Karen McKenna Jurgens. For the 2 alternate members expiring in April 2022, I have Emma Cartwright and Sean McGinnis. And for the 5 regular members, term expiration April 2023, I have Barbara Stein, Daniel Baum, Nora Pullen, Christopher Cuthill, and Mikkel Fish.
Is there a second? I'll second. And any further discussion? Call for the question.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry, one request for Councilmember Chavez. It looks like the only District 5 person, Emma Cartwright, on this committee is the alternate. So I'm wondering if you would be willing to give her one of the regular positions. It looks like there are 3 people from District 6 with regular positions. Maybe we could make one of those alternate.
I will do this. I will change Barbara Stein to be the alternate and Emma Cartwright to be the 2-year appointment.
So, Councilmember Chavez, you're saying Barbara Stein. Do you mean Barbara Steck?
Yes, my apologies.
Okay. So, I'll just say this, that Ms. Steck is a longtime member of this committee and has, I think it would be weird to turn her into an alternate position. She has like the most historical knowledge on the committee, probably, other than Mary. Maybe.
Well, if that's the, that's the case, I keep it as is. I mean, that's really the only way I would kind of go about it.
Your decision. I'm just sharing that.
Just difficult because there's the incumbents are all in the 1-year term, so I feel like I want to put an incumbent there, and it just happens to be Barbara. I'll keep it as is for now, with Emma being the 1-year or the alternate.
Okay.
Or you know what? I will compromise. I will shift Karen McKenna to be the alternate, and I'll keep Barbara and I'll keep Emma Cartwright in her 1-year position. That's my final decision.
Okay. Okay, Councilmember Reynolds, did you add anything else? Okay.
No, I appreciate that change. Thank you so much.
Call for the question.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Yes.
Councilmember Harper.
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan.
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros.
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar.
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
So the next item we have is Housing and Public Services Grants Committee. Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Brenda, I'll go before this time. For the 4 regular members, expiration on April 2022, I have Lisa Buchanan, Christopher Cubiero, Jenny Varba, and Haley Horton. For the alternate member, I have Ginny Walker. Actually, maybe a quick correction.
Can you repeat those? Because it's not in the order we're seeing it. So can you repeat those? Sorry.
Yeah, so the 4 expiring in 2022 are Lisa Buchanan, Ginny Walker, Jenny Varba, and Haley Horton. The alternate, expiring in April 2022, is Christopher Cubiero. And then the 5 appointments expiring April 2023 are Gabriel Godinez, Christy Martinez, Michelle Murphy, Aaron Kredolf, and Calvin Alvarez.
Councilmember Chavez, could you repeat the last 2 names, please?
Aaron Kredolf from District 5 and Calvin Alvarez from District 3.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to recuse myself from voting on this one because Calvin works for me. So, so Mayor Pro Tem, I'll let you take over the floor.
All right, is there a second? I'll second. I'll second. Any comments or discussion? All right, we're ready for a voice vote.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper, Councilmember Harper.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay. Now we have the Mobile Home Park Advisory Committee, and I will propose the following. Jay Humphrey for the Independent Citizen at Large, term expiring in 2022. Michael Doer for the Mobile Home Resident Owner, term expiring 2022. Dolores Minerick for the Mobile Home Resident Owner, term expiring 2022. Colette McCall Kredolf for the term for the Mobile Home Resident, term expiring 2023. Wanda Garrow for the Independent Citizen at Large, term expiring 2022. Kimberly Christensen for Independent Citizen at Large, term expiring 2023.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
You've made 3 at-large appointments, citizen at large. You started off with Jay Humphrey.
Oh, and there's only 2.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, I will have, I'll do Kimberly then instead of Mr. Humphrey, just because I know she really wanted to get involved. And as it relates to the park owner or representative, we had something that's not on here. Didn't we have another submission that's not in the staff report, or is it just Maria Horton?
And no, we had 2 park owners. One, Cirillo, the last name is Cirillo. Sorry, and Vicky Talley.
Okay, and under our ordinance, we appoint 2 park owner representatives?
We make 3 park owner representatives.
Okay, so.
I'm sorry, it's Eileen Cirillo. Sorry.
Okay, so I nominate Eileen Cirillo, Maria Horton, and Vicky Talley.
Can you just clarify which one would serve the 1-year term till 2022?
Vicky Talley.
Thank you.
And I think that just confirm for me that I got all the positions covered? Because I know we had stuff come in after the fact.
Yes. Can you, let's see.
Okay.
Can you clarify the 2 resident owner appointments with term expiration of April 2023?
I'm sorry, Ms. Green, I didn't hear you. Can you repeat it?
Yes. The 2 resident owner appointments whose terms expire April 2023. Am I frozen? Okay, just 1 minute, please. It looks like the mayor's computer is frozen.
Sorry, it kicked me out. I apologize. Did you get all the appointments?
No, if you could please say again the 2 resident owner appointments whose terms expire April 2023.
Colette McCall Kradoff and we only had one other one, right? And Dolores Minerick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I believe you had Minerick as one of the resident owner appointments for April 2022.
Right, and I gave you 2023, so you need one for the mobile home, sorry. You need 2 mobile home resident owners for 2023? Because I thought, okay. Well, you're gonna have to switch Dolores to 2023 then.
Okay.
Does that work?
Then who are your 2 for resident owner appointments for 2022?
Michael Dower and do we not have another one?
No, we need one more.
Okay. Oh, Leslie. I'm sorry. I didn't. Leslie Cheney Ames.
Okay. Thank you. Now we're good.
2022. Yeah. My apologies.
Perfect.
Okay. Is there a second? Councilmember, I'm not sure who had their hand up first. Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm not used to this new raise hand button. I'm very slow.
Okay. Okay. Second by Mayor Pro Tem Mar. Any further discussion? Councilmember Chavez?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I've noticed that all the residents are from District 5. Would it be possible to switch one for Jimmy Vivar in District 4?
Sure. I'll trade Leslie Cheney Ames out.
Thank you.
And that would be the 2022 term.
Correct.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar, do you agree? Does the second concur?
Concur.
Sorry, I had, in the interest of trying to get everybody on different committees, since he was appointed earlier, I had crossed him off. But you're right, we need someone from District 4 because there's that mobile home park there. Thank you. Okay, call for the question.
Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes.
Councilmember Harper?
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan?
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. And this is our last item, Traffic Impact Fee Ad Hoc Committee. Councilmember Harper.
No, actually, Mayor Foley, there's a mistake in the staff report. It's actually Councilmember Reynolds is the liaison.
Okay. Whichever one of you
Madam
wants
Mayor,
to
I'll
make the, Councilmember Reynolds, are you prepared to make the?
Okay. I am, yes.
Okay.
This one's easy. There's only 4, but really only 3. Okay, so for the major developer, George Sakioka. For the 2 at-large seats, Matt Eimers and Jason Kenzie. And for small developers, we didn't have applicants specific to that role. So I did have a, I guess, a procedural question. Am I able to nominate somebody who did not apply but has since confirmed by email that they're interested in the role, or do we need to reopen that seat?
Ms. Green or Ms. Barlow? Because that's a very specific role. We can't just appoint anyone to that role, right?
Correct. We have not received an application. I would probably recommend that we hold off on that and we can, again, post that vacancy, open up a small recruitment window and bring this back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Then we leave the small developer seat vacant and let's reopen that application.
Okay, so that'll be part of your motion. And is there a second?
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar for the second. Call for the question.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Yes.
Councilmember Harlan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar,
Yes.
Mayor Foley.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Great job, everyone. Wow, a lot of new voices and new community members getting involved in our city. This is wonderful. And I wanted to point out to the public that we actually had, it says 272, but we had somebody apply after. We had 273 people apply to participate in our local government on our committees and our commissions. That's wonderful engagement with our community. Really excited about all the new voices. So thank you all for that. And then I will be turning the reins over now to Mayor Pro Tem Mar to conclude the rest of the council meeting. Thank you so much and have a nice evening.
Thank you, Mayor Foley. Okay, and with that, we're going to proceed to public hearing item number 1. City Clerk, if you please read the title.
Thank you. This is give first reading to an ordinance entitled An Ordinance of the City of Costa Mesa, California, repealing urgency ordinance 19-19 and approving code amendment CO-2020-04, amending portions of Title 13 of the Costa Mesa Municipal Code pertaining to accessory dwelling units and junior accessory dwelling units consistent with state law requirements and to authorize related fees.
Mayor
Staff
Pro Tem?
present. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Brenda. Go ahead and finish.
A staff presentation by Ms. Lee, Economic and Development Services Director.
And Ms. Barlow.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mar. I just wanted to point out that Scott Porter from my office, who has worked closely with staff on this matter, is also here and available to answer your questions.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Reynolds, you've got a lot of background noise going on there. I know, it's a big binder. Anyway, so we're ready for the staff report then, Ms. Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. The presentation this evening will be given by Willie Aglupos, our assistant planner, who has been lead on developing our accessory dwelling unit policies. We're supported this evening by Minu Ashabi, our principal planner, and also Scott Porter with our city attorney's office. So I will turn it over now to Mr. Aglupos for the presentation, and after we are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer, for introducing us. I guess we're gonna go ahead and dive in. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so accessory dwelling units, or as we may know them as granny flats, in-law units, or second units, provide independent living facilities for one or more people and usually come in three general forms. We have a detached, attached, or interior conversion. So there are two types of accessory units. An accessory dwelling unit, ADU for short, and a junior accessory dwelling unit, or we call them JADUs. The main difference between the two units are that an ADU is entirely an independent living unit, whereas a JADU is a semi-private space that is created within a single family residence, such as the bedroom within the home. The table below further shows that the maximum size for an ADU is 1,200 square feet and the junior ADU is 500 square feet. The bathroom for an ADU is also independent, whereas JADUs may have a shared common sanitation. And for parking, JADUs is exempt from parking. And last, JADUs will require a land use restriction that requires one of the units be owner occupied. As a quick overview, throughout the years, ADU requirements have become more relaxed. Before 2017, Costa Mesa allowed granny units in R1 zones with restriction that the unit be occupied by someone who is 62 years or older. Between 2017 and 2018, the state established the first ADU laws and essentially modified and refined the law multiple times throughout the years. So in keeping with state law, the city Costa Mesa required that only R1 and R2 zones with a minimum lot size of 7,900 square feet be allowed to have an ADU. In 2019, state law changed again and eliminated many of the city's development standard, such as eliminating the minimum lot size, zoning requirements, and even parking requirements. The city passed an urgency ordinance in 2019 to mostly modify the standards in place to be consistent with state law, but also to retain the maximum remaining discretion to regulate these units when adopting a permanent ordinance. In January of last year, staff studied the issue and prepared a permanent ordinance. By summertime, the first draft ADU was heard by Planning Commission, with Planning Commission recommending that the ordinance be simplified, ordinance to allow second floor and two-story ADUs, and to preserve the existing fabric of Costa Mesa's neighborhood. Towards the end of the year, staff presented a modified ordinance which Planning Commission recommended approval for to City Council, which is why we are here tonight. So prior to state law, again, granny flats were only allowed in single family zones. The new state law required that all ADUs are allowed in all zones that permit residential dwellings, including mixed use zones. Junior ADUs, on the other hand, are only allowed where single family dwellings are permitted. As seen in the table below, you'll notice that ADUs are also permitted within the PD zone. JADUs is consistent with the city's land use matrix for where single-family dwelling is permitted. In regards to how we need to process these applications, state law requires that ADUs and junior ADUs are processed on a by right procedure. And this is very similar to over-the-counter approvals, such as fences, minor building additions, and pools. So in this case, the proposed ordinance has a more objective than subjective standards. Included in the approval process are standard construction fees, which includes building plan checks and permit fees, park impact fees, and non-city fees such as school, water, and sewer fees. Land use restrictions requiring that the units not be sold separately from the main residence, and for JADUs to be owner occupied. So diving into the gritty part of the ADU standards. So in order for us to determine the number of ADUs allowed, the number of residential units on the lot will need to be determined. Let's say we have a single family home on the lot. Then the property would be allowed to have one ADU and one junior ADU. If there are at least 2 existing units on the lot, they may have 2 detached ADUs or 25% of internal conversions. Let's take, for example, the image to your right. The property in yellow has a single family unit on the lot, which would be allowed 1 junior ADU and 1 ADU. The property in red has a duplex towards the rear and a single family towards the front. So therefore, it would be assessed under the multifamily ADU criteria since there are more than 2 units on a single lot. In that case, they would be allowed 2 detached ADUs or 1 internal conversion, or a combination of 1 detached and 1 internal conversion. So once we have determined if a property is evaluated under the single family or multifamily ADU criteria, then we can figure out the allowable ADU size. So for a lot containing 1 single family home, an attached ADU can be a maximum of 1,000 square feet or 50% of the size of the existing home, whichever is greater. A detached ADU can be a maximum of 1,200 square feet, and a JADU can be a maximum of 500 square feet. For a lot with 2 or more units, a detached ADU can be a maximum of 800 square feet. An attached within the multifamily is not allowed, and for internal conversions, the maximum size with it is determined by the confines of the existing buildings. Onto site planning. For a single-story ADU, the front setback is proposed at 20 feet. The side and rear setback is 4 feet, which is a state-imposed setback. 10 feet for the exterior street-facing side setback, and the distance between buildings is proposed at 6 feet, which is consistent with the underlying residential zone. The height for a single-story ADU is limited to 16 feet. For a second floor and 2-story ADUs, staff is proposing a 40-foot front setback to limit the perception of the mass of the primary resident as seen from the street. All the other requirements, including side and rear setback, would be the same as the underlying residential zone. The allowable height is limited to 27 feet, same as the underlying zone. For open space, state-imposed standards for single-family and multifamily must allow the development of at least a detached ADU that is 800 square feet, regardless of open space requirement. So therefore, staff is proposing that any ADU that is more than 800 square feet must meet the 40% open space requirement, which is consistent with our underlying zone. To preserve the fabric of our existing neighborhoods, the mass and design of the ADU need to be compatible with the existing home. Entrance of the ADU or junior ADU has to be subordinate to the main resident, such as locating it on the side or the interior property. When a garage is converted, the property owner may choose to retain or eliminate the driveway. Per code, however, it is prohibited to have a driveway not leading to a garage. So state law effective last year imposed parking requirements for ADUs. The city cannot require additional parking space for ADUs if it's located within half a mile of transit stop, located within historical districts, ADU conversions within primary residence, car share within 1 block, conversions of garage. So as seen on the map to your right, the dots represents the bus stops, and the light orange are R1 and R2 properties, which are exempt from parking requirements. That is approximately 90% of the R1 and R2 properties in Costa Mesa. Park and impact fees for ADU. Staff has included a fee resolution to clarify and establish park impact fees specifically for ADUs. State law requires tiered impact fee maximums. Junior ADU park impact fees are not defined by the state. ADUs less than 750 square feet, we cannot assess any impact fee. ADUs of 750 square feet or more is on a proportional impact fee calculation. So under the proposed ordinance, JADUs would be subject to a $5,000 park impact fee, which is the same as the park fee applied to apartments. For ADUs, it would be subject to a park impact fee that is proportional, that is a proportion of the park fees applied to single family dwelling or multifamily dwelling based on the ADU size as compared to the size of the primary unit on the lot. So for example, let's take a 1,200 square feet ADU on a lot containing a 2,400 square feet single family dwelling. The ADU park fee would be 1,200 square feet divided by 2,400 square feet multiplied by 13,572, which would give us a park impact fee of approximately $6,700. On September 14th of last year, Planning Commission recommended approval of the ordinance as presented with the following recommendations to City Council. It is to consider additional park exemptions, consider affordable rents to ADUs, encourage ADU development to address multi-generational needs and optional income for homeowners, and consider waiving park impact fees for junior ADUs. So as mentioned earlier, 90% of residential zones are exempt from ADU parking requirements. Planning Commission suggested to City Council to consider additional parking exemptions or eliminating parking requirements for ADUs altogether. Planning Commission also recommended that the City Council consider including an affordability requirements for ADUs. At this time, Costa Mesa has no inclusionary housing policy or other requirements for affordable housing. So staff recommends that, if desired, ADU affordability incentives be included as a part of the comprehensive discussion of the city's inclusionary housing policy. And last recommendation by Planning Commission to City Council is park impact fees for junior ADUs. So under the proposed fee resolution, JADUs would be subject again to the existing apartment rate of $5,000 for park impact fee. Planning Commission recommended City Council to consider a waiver or reduce park impact fees related to junior ADUs due to the limitations, the requirement that it has to be built within a primary residence, and the requirement that either the primary dwelling or junior ADU be owner occupied. After a Planning Commission review, staff made minor clarifications to the ordinance in 2 areas, shown in underline and strikeout format in the staff report. As part of the motion this evening, staff also requests the following language be included in the ordinance and fee resolution relating to ADU application in plan check and maximum park impact fee. The first revision is for section 14 relating to application already in plan check. This additional language is intended to clarify that ADU applications already in for plan check will continue to be processed under the version of the ordinance in place at the time plan check commenced. The fee resolution would be revised as follows. The date would be corrected to February 2021 rather than January 2021. The second bullet point would be revised to add the following to the end of the second bullet point, which would say such fee shall not exceed the full fee for single family dwellings. Thus, the new second bullet would provide ADUs of 750 square feet or more on a lot containing a single family dwellings. So then the calculation would be the full fee for a single family multiplied by, again, the proportion of the ADU and the square footage of the primary dwelling, which would then equal the ADU park impact fee. And so in that case, such fee shall not exceed the full fee for a single family dwelling. To conclude, the adoption of the proposed ADU ordinance would encourage high quality ADUs, increase housing stock and housing choice, preserve the visual quality of the city's neighborhoods while meeting the requirement of state law. Staff recommends that the ordinance is exempt from CEQA, introduce the first reading of the ordinance to repeal the urgency ordinance and adopt a code amendment modifying the municipal code with respect to ADUs and junior ADUs, and adopt a resolution to amend the city's fee schedule to include park and recreation impact fees for ADUs and junior ADUs. That was a long presentation. That concludes this. We are here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Glupos. Council, what questions do we have? Go ahead and raise your hand. I'll try to keep track of the order.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar.
Yes, Councilmember Harper.
Sorry, I don't have the hand raised feature.
Having hand to raise, so yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have the hand feature. So I had a few questions, and Jennifer Lee and John Willie were kind enough to do a preliminary presentation to answer some of my questions, but I've got a few others. To write this ordinance, did we use any other cities as a template or to compare to, like Irvine or Newport?
this ordinance is certainly similar to any number of ordinances that are out there. I personally have drafted more than a dozen of these ordinances, so I certainly am familiar with how a great number of cities have adopted these ordinances. Staff can speak specifically to cities and the nearby jurisdictions as far as how they do things.
Sorry, who's that speaking? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, this is Scott Porter with the City Attorney's Office.
Oh, thanks.
Councilmember Harper, did you have anything else?
Yes. Yeah. So how would this, how does this compare to Irvine or Newport as far as being restrictive or unrestricted, less or more? Can you comment on that?
So I'm not familiar with their ordinances in particular, but what I can say is that this ordinance does include various provisions that I would say it's more permissive than is legally mandatory. So if you wanted to be less permissive of ADUs, you could do that. This is more permissive of ADUs than is required. For example, we're allowing slightly larger sizes of attached ADUs. If it's a one bedroom, state law allows us to, for example, limit the size to as little as 850 square feet, and we're allowing 1,000 square feet. We're allowing junior accessory dwelling units in attached garages. We're not required to allow them in garages at all. We're allowing.
Which direction did you make it more permissive? Is that direction of the Planning Commission, or where did that come from?
That's Planning Commission generally was in favor of encouraging accessory dwelling units.
Got it. Got it. So hang on a second. I've got. So we could make this less permissive in this area, but we did not. Is it possible to get a list of where we could have made it less permissive?
We could certainly do that. I could give you a quick thumbnail now, but if you would like, I could provide a more detailed summary. I think that has been provided in the past, but I'd be happy to provide it to you again.
And said, sorry, I obviously wasn't on council before. Correct. I apologize. So I guess I'll finish my questions with a comment in that and I'm trying to represent the residents that live in a neighborhood, and that resident that saves their money, buys a house in a neighborhood, and that neighborhood has characteristics and attributes that don't include ADU, and so you invest your money in that house, and you invest in that neighborhood, and then our state government changes the rules about what that neighborhood's going to look like and be, and I think I find that very unfair by our state government, and so I'm respectful of people's property and their property ownership, and it's easy for us. And I understand there's 14 ADUs in Costa Mesa, and that's that sounds like just a few, except when one's on the right side of you and one's on the left side of you. And the other comment I'm going to make is as you approve this kind of ordinance, that it doesn't have much of an impact a year from now, maybe not 4 years from now, and maybe not 10 years from now, but in 30, 40, 50 years, you might look at a neighborhood and the impact could be significant, because what you're allowing for is a neighborhood to double its population. And that's theoretically possible. And I don't think, and that doubles the strain on traffic, parking, sewer, water, electricity, parks, everything around that neighborhood. And so I am very much for a more restrictive policy. And I don't know if anybody else is going to support me on that, but that's where I'm at. And I hope that maybe some other people support me, and we can at least look at specifically where we could make it more restrictive, and it may be deferring this to another meeting and then consider that. So thank you. Excuse me, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Councilmember Harper, we're going to focus on questions, and then if you want to make an alternative motion when we get to that part of the meeting, you're welcome to.
Thanks, Mary. I'm always messing up. Thanks, Mary.
No worries.
Yeah.
Councilmember Harlan.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Mark.
Well, first of all, I just want to express my gratitude to staff, John Willie and Manu and Jennifer and Scott, in putting this together. It is a very complex issue. I've seen you guys 3 times already. It's definitely Groundhog Day for me. So I just want to thank you because you've been able to present the information, I think, pretty simply for us to digest. And I probably want to get into the weeds a little bit later after public comment, because I think there's going to be some things that are brought up that I want clarification on. But I do want to say that I'm also want to make sure that we have some consistency in our ordinance language relative to what's in the staff report. So I'll probably address that a little bit later on, but I really want to be very careful about the language that we use, because I know from a practical standpoint, you know, I want to have an ordinance that actually can be effective, if in fact that's something that the council approves tonight. I just don't want to have a policy that sits there that can't be implemented. And given the current state of affairs with the housing situation, I think ADUs are going to play some role, but I don't know exactly how large in Costa. So I'm going to leave it at that, and then hopefully have some more comments when we get into after public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I actually lowered my hand. Thank you, though.
Oh, all right, Councilmember Reynolds.
Thanks. I was really eager to hear Councilmember Harlan's comments in particular as a planner who studied this, I think, twice as much as us. But I will sit on my hands and wait. But I do have a few just clarifying questions to our staff. I know you guys have answered this a dozen times. I want to make sure I understand it 100%. Can you explain whether and how new ADUs contribute to our RENA requirements?
Mr. Glupos or Mr. Porter, who wants to take that?
I'll take that.
Oh, Manu, sorry.
Good evening, City Council. In terms of the regional housing needs assessment, the state has allowed a portion of the RENA units to be accommodated via ADU units. There's a cap, so the threshold is the number of ADU units that were developed since 2018 to date and times 5. And that's the maximum that's been allowed in the term of this 8-year cycle that the RENA covers. So that's been the maximum. Cities that want to exceed that number would definitely have to have justifications to do that. Some cities will choose to do that. I know, as a matter of fact, the city of Newport Beach is planning to accommodate a lot of the RENA units via ADU and junior ADUs.
And Councilmember,
I knew there was a new one.
For just a moment, I want also to draw a distinction between ADUs that we can project will occur and count as part of our housing element calculation of how we meet our 11,733 unit RENA. So the guidance that Minu has just described is what HCD has told us. This is the methodology for how to count ADUs as part of your housing element for planning purposes. As ADUs are constructed, we report annually every year to the state all of our housing construction activity. That will include every ADU that's constructed.
Thank you. That makes sense. We can't pretend we're going to suddenly proliferate ADUs and claim that as compliant in terms of our plans, but if we're actually building them, we can claim everything we build. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you so much. Hopefully I'll remember that next time. I appreciate the additional explanations. I had 2 other questions. One, I think we touched on last time, or maybe it was the Planning Commission touched on last time, and that was the recommendation regarding the parking rules. My understanding from the map that you shared that the state rules say you cannot impose a parking requirement for you guys listed a bullet list, and you showed on the map that really covers almost 90% or more than 90% of our city. And one of the recommendations from Planning Commission was that, like, might as well just make it 100%. Is that right? Do you have any concerns about that?
So from my perspective, I don't have any concerns. I would say I'll give this as a balanced response, because I think that in certain neighborhoods, on-street parking is a concern for certain neighborhoods. So certainly if you're adding accessory dwelling units, those dwelling units have residents, those residents may or may not have cars, and it goes to sort of a cumulative on-street parking issue at some point. So that is always a concern. That's always something that we are thinking about from a planning perspective, and making sure that we're not exacerbating an existing on-street parking concern in any neighborhood. But having said that, considering that 90% of the neighborhoods would be exempt by virtue of state law from any parking requirements for ADUs, I think the Planning Commission's point was that it seemed that maybe there was from an equity perspective, maybe it doesn't make sense to have 10% of ADUs provide parking when 90% don't. So I believe that was the perspective from the Planning Commission. So we presented this option and this recommendation from the Planning Commission to the council this evening for policy direction. It's really a policy matter from the standpoint of, do we require parking, and when do we require parking, and how consistently do we require parking given the state's requirements?
Okay, great, thank you. And then last question, this is related to a comment that we got from a resident. This is a resident who built an ADU. The Bras, Cindy Bras, sent this, who built an ADU under the old ordinance. I think it took them 4 years. And she raised what I think was a really good question about the 40-foot setback requirement for second stories. And I want to make sure I understand that. And actually, the visual you shared in the presentation was really helpful in explaining, sort of showing what that looked like. Maybe you could bring that up again.
I was going to ask the same question. So yeah, Mr. Glupos, do you mind bringing up the slide that showed the 40-foot setback?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
And so as I understand the ordinance is written, we would not allow any second floor construction for an ADU nearer to the street, I guess, than 40 feet, regardless of the structure of the existing home. There we go, thank you. Right, so if you just point the arrow to the part of that home that's closest to the street, yeah, we wouldn't be allowing any construction on that part of the home. And I'm thinking of the Bras ADU in particular, which is my favorite ADU in the neighborhood, one of the most beautiful, and it's built on top of their garage. But because their garage is closer to the street, their ADU, which is on top of the garage, would not be allowed under this ordinance. And I think I heard your explanation for this proposal was so that it would be sort of less intrusive to the street and sort of protect the street character. But it seems to me that by pushing it back, it's possibly more intrusive into sort of privacy to neighborhood issues, right? You have more visibility into someone's backyard versus pushing up second story construction towards the street. So am I understanding your reasoning for the 40-foot setback correctly? It's just a visual?
That is correct, and it was a part of Planning Commission recommendation during the meeting.
And I'd say also, we talk a lot about neighborhood compatibility and balancing our desire to encourage ADUs, to increase housing stock, to increase housing choice, and provide more opportunities for new units in Costa Mesa, but also balancing that with neighborhood compatibility. So this is one of the development standards that is a policy determination. From our perspective, when we hear complaints about new construction. Many times it's about the bulk and the mass and the scale of the new construction compared to what was on the site before. So from our perspective, if you're looking at these developments from the street, from the public right-of-way, which is where you experience a neighborhood from a broad general public perspective, the idea was to have more space in between the bulk of a second-story ADU, so that when you read that bulk, it's not as obtrusive, it's not as close to the street, it's not as visible from an experiential perspective. So that was our recommendation, to push those that additional bulk back a little bit more on the site, and that's why you see the visual here in the slide.
Okay, a quick follow-up question. One day I'll get to my own home renovation project, so I don't know our residential design standards as well as I might in the future. If I was just building out my own single-family home, do the same requirements apply? Am I allowed to build a second story of my own home closer to the street?
So on the underlying zone, yes, you would be able to build a second story, a second floor within 20 feet from the front property line.
So we have a different standard for a large single family home than building an ADU on top of a single family home. Is that correct?
That is correct. And the intent is that the ADU would be secondary to the primary home.
Okay, but the visual then, thank you, I'm just learning this. So then from what I'm understanding, this bulking or massing that Ms. Lee described already can happen for a large single family home. Is that correct?
That's correct.
It can happen for a large single family home. So particularly in new construction, when you're doing a construction of a 2-story home, for example, you can build that home 20 feet from the property line. A lot of times when we're talking about ADUs, it's usually an addition. So it's a single-story home and then a second story is being added to accommodate an ADU or something similar to that. So the discussion at Planning Commission was a bit about how the neighborhood experiences that change and whether we want that change to be a little softer. So that was the reasoning behind it. This is absolutely a policy determination.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I appreciate that, that discussion. Okay, I know I said I'm my last. I have one really quick question. The fees, we heard some discussion about the fees and Planning Commission recommendations on the fees. Whatever fees we establish today, we can always change in the future, correct?
Yes. Scott, do you want to weigh in on the process for fees? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I'm done. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Sorry, I didn't know if we were weighing in on the process of fees. Councilmember Hartland, go ahead.
Thanks. Well, I wasn't going to ask any questions, and Barlis covered most of the concerns I had. And I think what you've expressed, Councilmember Reynolds, is kind of highlights the difficulty in crafting an ordinance here that's going to respond to all conditions throughout the city. I mean, I can tell you that in Planning Commission, we delved into all the different lot sizes, lot configurations. And so I think that Ms. Lee did a very good job of explaining the considerations we had from a neighborhood standpoint and trying to make sure that, you know, that community character was maintained. And I would posit that most ADUs seem to be detached products that are often in the backyard. I mean, it's, you know, sort of the typical granny flat casita type typology. I did have a question for staff though, which also referenced that letter we received from Ms. Braz, which was there was a concern raised about the requirement for, and this is in the ordinance, windows that are facing neighbors being that have to be at least, the properties has to be, or buildings have to be at least 25 feet apart and the window size would have to, couldn't face that property or have to be a higher window. I think the sill height, minimum sill height was 5 feet. The question that was raised from that is that a design standard that we don't require of single family homes? Does that make sense?
Yes. Willie, if you don't mind, I'll kind of start this response, and then if you can provide some details and some color. We have the residential design guidelines that we apply to the design of new residential, single family residential. And we have a series of more subjective guidelines included in those guidelines that really articulate what the objective of some of these requirements are. So they are not as specific as what we have included in this ordinance, because the ordinance is intended to be very objective and very specific, so that we are not using a lot of discretion to determine. So, for example, I don't believe that we articulate window heights at a sill height of 5 feet in our design guidelines, but in practice, that is what we look for in design. And if we do have windows facing windows, we ask the applicant to modify that design to offset the windows and to raise the sill height. So although it's not articulated in the same way in the design guidelines, from a practical standpoint, the approach is the same.
Okay, and I appreciate that. I mean, I just noticed that it's actually in the ordinance. I mean, it is, as you said, a more objective standard, and obviously it's for council to consider whether or not that's appropriate and necessary. I just wanted to see how it compared to standard design guidelines for single family homes. And on the one last question, and I apologize, I can't help myself having dealt with this for so long. But the diagram you showed, Mr. Aglupos, that had all of the different transportation radii, I wasn't clear as to the number of homes that was actually excluded from the parking exemption. It looked like the number was 17,000 and change for the dark orange. I don't know if that was the total number of properties or that was the difference.
Let me check that for you here.
And while you're bringing that up, I think that it's somewhat of an anomaly how that map, I think, ends up getting developed, because on the east side, there happens to be no bus route on Irvine Avenue, which with any bus stops, which would probably grab a number of the properties on the east side. So everything is actually for District 6 is really bus stops are generated on Newport Boulevard and 17th Street. So it seems like that little wedge on the eastern end that is excluded is more by happenstance. The fact that we don't have a bus route on Irvine, which is still perplexing. And I noticed there's the same condition on Mesa Verde, closer to the Santa Ana River Trail there. So Mr. Aglupos, it says residential zones, 1,000, I can't quite read that, for the dark orange. Potential residential zone was, I don't know, 16,000, is that right?
That is correct. The lighter orange are the potential residential sites that would be exempt from parking. The dark orange, well, it's probably underneath the lighter orange is essentially the total residential zones in R1 and R2.
Okay.
So I think the short answer is that neither one of these numbers is the number that you're looking for, I think, which is the number of properties that would not be exempt, I think is what you're looking for.
Right, but I think
get that number and bring it back to you.
That's okay. I mean, I think even just looking at the map, you can tell that it's, as you posited, Ms. Lee, it's probably about 90% of the city that's got an exclusion.
It's a small area.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to jump in with a couple here. I'm wondering, since we're already holding multifamily properties to an open space requirement, kind of why bother also including a maximum ADU size? I'm thinking of and Miss Lee, you and I have talked about this before, like the number of like weird skinny lots on the west side where there's some open space stuck at the back. You know, as long as folks are fulfilling the maximum lot size, what do we care if it's a multifamily with an ADU or another unit? Why cap it at 800?
I think for a couple of reasons, and then Minu and Willie, if you can weigh in on some of the more specifics of the open space requirements. One of the things that's very important from our perspective is to keep the accessory dwelling unit actually accessory as much as possible to the primary dwelling unit. Otherwise, you appear to have duplex or triplex, or depending on the zoning and how many ADUs you can actually accommodate on the property. Many more units than are in our neighborhoods today. So it was important to us to ensure that we had standards that would maintain the accessory nature of ADUs as much as possible. So from that perspective, we think that the maximum size is very important. Otherwise, you may have ADUs that are really just second units at that point. So that was one of the main reasons. We also have maximum unit sizes that are articulated, or minimum unit sizes and unit sizes in general that are articulated in state law. So Minu and Willie and Scott, would you like to weigh in on some of the open space?
I'll just speak very quickly as far as the 800 number. So state law says that if you're going to regulate based on open space, you can only do that if you allow an ADU to be at least 800 square feet. That's why we started regulating only at 800 square feet.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that the same logic was applied to the single family as well as multifamily. So we comply with the state law, and if you want to go have a larger unit, then you would need to meet the open space requirement.
So the effective impact though for multifamily is that you've got both a min and a max at 800 exactly. And I think that's the part that just doesn't give you much wiggle room, frankly, if you're trying to make it work in a space. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that.
There is the option of conversion in multifamily as well. So there's potential to convert the garage or unusable space into an ADU, and they don't have to have a minimum lot size or unit size.
So to be clear, there's no limitation that says that you must have, the only limit right now in our ordinance is your ADU has to be at least 220 square feet. So you can have very small ADUs. We're just saying, if you're going to go above 800 square feet, you need to be on a lot that has enough space to accommodate it. That's the general thinking.
Okay. On just to follow up on this idea of 2 stories and the 40-foot setback, can we separate out 2-story ADUs versus ADUs that are added to an existing story and think about those differently? I understand the mass and bulk of suddenly a 2-story building going up 20 feet away from the sidewalk being a surprise, but most of College Park has garages where folks are looking or thinking or have added second floors to. I mean, you see those all over the place. And so that's not, to Councilmember Reynolds' point, that's not an unusual circumstance for a homeowner to do, to outfit it with more amenities and potentially be able to rent it out differently, treat it differently. We can talk about affordable housing here in a second, but would seem to not be a stretch. So maybe in that 40-foot carve out, would anyone be opposed from staff to further clarifying adding a second floor versus building a 2-story unit?
So Councilmember Marr, we did look into that scenario. An existing second story or second floor within the 20-foot setback can be converted into an ADU if they wish to do so, provided that the structure is 2 years after final. So if it's an existing second story or second floor within the 40 feet setback, they can convert that into an ADU.
But if I have a single story garage 20 foot away from the street and I wanted to build an ADU on top of it, I wouldn't be allowed to do that because I'd be too close to the street. Is that right?
That is correct. And it also justifies your point of it being an abrupt change from single story to all of a sudden 2-story. Hence why if there's already an existing 2-story within that setback, you can convert that into an ADU after 2 years.
Okay. Ms. Lee?
Yes, we did look at the idea of just visual change, and again, sort of that soft landing concept for a neighborhood's palette for change. And from our perspective, you still have the same bulk and mass considerations when you're adding a second story on top of a 1-story garage, particularly when it's adjacent to a 1-story home. At that point, you start to lose the accessory nature of that ADU, and you're also experiencing the change just as you would if someone were building a 2-story ADU as opposed to a second-story ADU on top of a 1-story garage. So those were the considerations that we thought about in proposing what we did. And again, this is something that council can decide on from a policy perspective.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is about fees. So the staff report indicated that if we wanted to further modify junior ADU fees, we could based on Planning Commission's recommendations. Do we have or for park fees specifically, sorry, do we have a number that staff feels comfortable with going down to? And then the second part of that question is if we're able to do a flat fee on the junior ADU side, and we think the average ADU is between 800 and 1,200 square feet, is there a reason why we can't assign a flat park impact fee to ADUs across the board?
So the answer is that state law says that we need to do it how we did it. So as far as ADUs, so the maximum, so you're correct that for JADUs, state law is silent. We can charge whatever fee we want. Right now we're proposing 5,000. You can go lower if you want to. The reason 5,000 is the number is because that's the same number as we charge for apartments. You have the discretion to change that determination. As far as ADUs, that's state law. State law sets a cap. They have a complicated formula, which is set forth in your resolution. And it basically says that if the ADU is 750 square feet or more, then the most that we can charge is based on the size of the proposed ADU in proportion to the size of the single family dwelling. So if you've got the primary dwelling, so if you've got a single family dwelling, let's say the ADU is 40% the size of the single family dwelling, you pay 40% of the fee. So that's the cap, and you can do anything below that number, but you can't do anything higher than that number. That's the reason that it's graduated that way. If it's 749 square feet or below, we cannot charge a fee. And that's why you see that in your resolution. We're not charging anything below 749 and below.
Could we create our own cap?
As long as the cap is lower, the problem is that if you are hard cap, there is going to be the bizarre scenario where potentially that cap would be lower than whatever hard number we set. So it might potentially be illegal.
Might potentially be illegal. Okay, that's great.
Right.
Advice. Okay, I asked because, and I've talked to Ms. Lee about this a number of times, like the streamlining the fees to the maximum extent possible, I think is one way that we encourage it. And so I really appreciate that the staff report had that table. I think that's kind of what I was hoping for in terms of explaining what all these fees are. And so homeowners can kind of get a sense of, to put, granny or uncle whomever in a dwelling unit in the yard is going to cost me X. And that's one of the things that is the big unknown for any kind of home construction is like what all those fees are going to be. You can get a modular bid, but go ahead, Ms. Barlow, looked like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was just thinking that if we wanted to set our own cap, so long as it was a number that would be reasonably proportional to what we could expect the state cap to be. We could provide that the fee would be the maximum of, or the minimum, whatever, of either our cap or whatever the state maximum would be. So if in that bizarre situation that Mr. Porter was mentioning, where the whatever our cap set is too high, then we could qualify that by making sure that it will never be higher than whatever the state maximum is under that formula. It's just an idea if you want to do that, something like that.
If we wanted to make a change to the ordinance to that effect tonight, I don't know that anyone can do the math fast enough. I don't want to push back a first reading for that. Go ahead, Mr. Porter.
No, that would be very easy to do. In the resolution itself, we can change the language very quickly. I think what we would simply say that we keep the crazy formula that's mandated by the state. It would be whatever is lower, the crazy state formula, or name the amount, X dollars.
Okay. All right, that's all I had. I think somebody else raised their hand at one point and I didn't write it down. Councilmember Reynolds or Harlan? No, okay. All right, I think we're good. We can open it up for public comment then. If you are a member of the public and you wish to speak, please raise your hand at this time.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
Could we take a quick bathroom break before public comments? I don't want to miss any, but I.
Sure. Sure.
We're almost 3 hours in.
Yeah, let's take a let's take a 6-minute break and come back at 8:55.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Okay, we will now proceed to public comment. If you would like to raise your hand, press *9 on your phone or use the raise hand feature on Zoom. And then when we call on you, you can press *6 to unmute. So the top of my list is the number ending in 948. You can press *6 to unmute.
Hi, I am really struggling with this J to ADU park fee here that's taken into consideration. When staff says that it's in comparison to an apartment new construction, yet a JADU does not add 1 square foot to a homeowner's house. And the homeowners already paid those fees when they originally built the house. So for them to reconfigure a small area in their house for grandma to live in to have some autonomy seems like we're trying to charge them double fees on this. So that I really struggle with that, especially with an ADU being built under 750 square feet that can't charge any fee, and a JADU can only go up to 500 feet. So I'm not sure what the state's intention was there, or maybe they thought it's a given, you're not adding 1 square foot, so it's a moot point. But anyway, and then I'm also struggling with this 40-foot setback. I agree. It seems like the city's trying to incentivize people taking out their garages and converting them to an ADU. So we're going to lose all that parking and penalize the homeowners that want to be responsible and maintain their parking for their cars and alleviate some of the parking stress in their streets by telling them they can't build over their garage, when I think the really smart thing to do would be to grandfather existing garages and allow ADUs on those, especially if a new homeowner can come in and build a house and put a second story on. We're having double standards for new construction or ADUs when ultimately we're just trying to handle parking, handle REMA numbers, handle affordable housing. So those are my issues. And also, I think to require a 40-foot setback, does anybody really want to look at a 40-foot concrete slab in the front of somebody's narrow lot if they are able to put the garage with an ADU over that? That would be a tremendous eyesore. So I thank you for your due diligence on this, and I just think there's still a few outstanding issues that we need to take into consideration. Lastly, I'm not sure, I know the state issued a new ADU handbook in December with new ADU laws that took effect January 1st, and this staff report came out in January, so I'm not sure. I'd like to know if those new laws were taken into consideration with this staff report as well. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. Thanks for staying up with us too. Next person in the queue is Mike.
Hi, thanks. I also had the kind of the same comment about the 40-foot setback, and it just seems a little arbitrary when new construction can meet that 20-foot setback, but an ADU has a 40-foot setback requirement. So it does seem like a bit of a double standard. And I mean, if I can add a second story on a 20-foot setback, and then I have to wait 2 years and convert it to an ADU versus a 40-foot setback for a new ADU, it just seems a bit confusing.
Okay, thank you very much for your comment, Mike. Next in line is Chasen Prather. Apologies if I missaid your name.
That was correct. Thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to second and third what they've discussed. My wife and I are homeowners here in Costa Mesa, and we've been considering this process. And the conclusion we came to is that the second story allowance would actually allow us to keep off-street parking. And in addition to that, but I mean, if we didn't allow that, then you would be having homeowners convert garages and then you would have additional occupants in a property with no off-street parking. And so, I mean, we're very much in favor of that. We would personally be going to an additional expense by maintaining off-street parking. It would result in a better project, better housing for folks. And so, to the other, contributors here, we feel like that's, that would be the appropriate ordinance. So, we've kind of seen the evolution of this, and we thank everybody for their time on it. We think it's gone a really good direction where we think that we can put up really quality projects, and that's good. And as you get more restrictive to the state ordinance, it actually lessens the quality of the project. And I think that needs to be noted.
Thank you very much for your comments. Last call, anyone else for public comment on this matter? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Council, can I get a motion? And if not, I'll make one. Go ahead, Councilmember Harlan. Sorry, it's super hard to see those things.
I know. So I do want to make a motion with staff's recommendation, although I'm having a hard time seeing exactly what that is here on our staff report. I guess it's just an introduction for the first reading. But there are some kind of specifics that I want to make sure are actually in the ordinance. So if we can get a second, I can speak to those.
Do you want to go through the specifics before we get a second?
Sure, I can do that as well. So I just wanted to make sure there's some consistency in the materials that we received, namely in the land use restriction and the actual ordinance. So in our land use restriction that we received from staff, it identified number 5, and forgive me if everybody can't quite follow along, but number 5 said no short-term rentals. And it said, unless allowed by the Costa Mesa Municipal Code, residential units that are not occupied by the owner shall not be rented or leased for a term of less than 31 days. I just wanted to make sure that unless allowed by Costa Mesa Municipal Code is actually part of the ordinance. And in particular, I think that's page handwritten 22.
Okay.
Under section 5, recorded covenants D, it says prohibit renting the ADU for periods of less than 31 days. And I think we need that phrase unless allowed by the Costa Mesa Municipal Code in there.
Okay. Sorry, I was thinking maybe you could tick through the couple of items that you wanted to verify. We'll get a second and then we'll come back and discuss them a little bit more.
That is kind of the
okay
primary one at the moment. So.
All right, can I get a second? I'll second for discussion. Okay. Councilmember Harlan, did you want to go into more detail about your caveat there?
Well, let me kind of back up, I guess, which is that, I mean, I'll state very plainly, I'm very much in favor of having an accessory dwelling unit ordinance. Not only do we have limitations by the state, but I think we've taken a great effort to tailor something for our needs here in Costa Mesa, and I think staff's done a very good job of that. I understand how we have different conditions all over the city. It's very hard to craft an ordinance that's going to apply broadly, but I think this does the best that we can. And I don't want perfect to be the enemy of the good here. I'm very thankful for the comments that were offered by the community tonight and what we've gotten from responses, both the Planning Commission as well as for tonight's staff report, because obviously people are paying attention, and this does have an impact on their neighborhoods or on their ability to actually develop an ADU. From my perspective, I think that ADUs are going to contribute to our housing stock, but I don't expect them to be a significant amount. And the reason for my kind of apprehension about that is simply that It's expensive for one, even to do something like a 300 square foot ADU, which barely exceeds our minimum. I mean, you're still looking at $200 to $300 dollars a square foot at least. Even some of the prefab models that you can find online come with a fair expense, especially if you are going to tack on fees. And so, you know, I think there's going to be some limitations for people in proceeding with this. As far as the garage conversion issue is concerned, I did actually want to ask staff how many applications we've had for garage conversions. I'm less concerned about people actually converting their front garages or attached garages, because quite frankly, nobody really parks there to begin with. And if you convert it, I don't know where people are going to put all their stuff. I mean, that's just the nature of how we occupy our homes these days. So you'd have to basically build another structure for stuff. And I don't know that that really makes a ton of sense. As far as the fee structure is concerned too, I am in favor of either significantly reducing or eliminating any kind of park impact fee for the JADUs. I think as some of the commenters pointed out tonight, that's just repetitive. That's already existing space. It's basically been, had paid for an impact fee at one point. And I really do want to see us create a regulatory scheme that actually encourages development. So if there's ways to kind of prime the pump now and maybe phase in fees over the long run, I think that might be an approach that would be worth consideration. So those are my initial comments, and I'm also happy to respond to other questions and concerns from the council.
Would the maker of the motion consider the, oh, I just got a bunch of feedback. Would the maker of the motion consider the following amendments to eliminate the parking requirement across the board, given the map that we saw that it applies to very few actual units across the city with the additional requirement of the transportation radius?
Yes, I'd agree to that.
Removing the 40-foot driveway setback unless the ADU is a 2-story construction. So my goal with that would be to carve out building on top of your garage and calling it an ADU. And I walk College Park a lot, and a lot of people do use their garages still. So I actually do think that the concern raised by the public is valid.
So is your concern, Mayor Pro Tem, that people would convert their existing attached garage instead of developing an ADU above that existing garage?
I think that, and the fact that it feels hypocritical because folks are already developing the space above their single-story garages, where they're already doing it. They're just not calling it an ADU. And so if we're encouraging that for a guest bedroom, something, like, we might as well sort of formalize the process.
I don't have a strong objection to that. I just think my concern is that knowing how things have developed, at least here on the east side, there's a lot of concern about, you know, kind of the community character at the street level. So, and I don't know if this is really a function of the distance between the property line and the structure itself. So maybe staff has a question about a way to do that, because I think this is a very important issue, and I don't want to preclude opportunities for development across the city. And I also don't want to say this is strictly for the east side, because it's certainly not.
Ms. Lee.
Yeah, so a few possible suggestions. Oh, I realized that my hand is raised for some reason. Let me lower it.
I noticed that too.
A few possible suggestions. So one suggestion would be that the addition of a second story on top of a garage is not as much of an issue when the primary dwelling is already 2 stories. That's something that is not a concern for staff from a bulk of mass perspective. So if that's something that's a carve out that might help the conversation, staff thinks that that's a good policy idea. The other idea, if the 40-foot setback and sort of the soft landing of that setback is too much, I think one of the comments that we get from the community a lot is about mass of the second story when it reads as one continuous wall. So another suggestion that we have is perhaps an additional 5-foot setback for the second story. So you have a little bit of articulation so it doesn't read as a 27-foot tall straight wall. So those are a few ideas for how we might soften the landing without having the 40-foot setback and still allowing second story ADUs.
So to be clear, I mean, we could probably do both too, right? So we could say
combination.
Right. So if the house is already 2-story, then a 20-foot setback is acceptable. If the building, my notes are really bad. If they're building a second story on top of an existing structure, then a 5-foot articulation to make it look slightly not mass-y. I'm not sure what the noun is there, but yeah. Adjective? Anyway. Okay, Councilmember Harlan, how do you feel about that?
I think both of those strategies can be applied here. And I think it addresses my concern, and I think what also was raised by the public, which was just trying to make sure that the massing is going to be compatible. So if you're referring to homes that are 2-story already, I think this addresses that. And I think it's important to have that relief, at least a little bit of a setback on the second story to kind of help minimize and better articulate that facing to the street.
Okay. And then the last issue, I just want to make sure I was clear. So you proposed eliminating the junior ADU fee completely?
I think that's a good starting point for us.
Would you also accept a cap on the maximum fee as Mr. Porter described earlier? And I don't know if that 6-minute break was long enough to come up with a number for that cap, or if we want to ask staff to come back with a number in the second reading. Well, that's a resolution though, so that's okay. We can come back with that.
Right.
Okay.
Well, except that we would want, if we want these fees to be in effect quickly, you want to adopt the resolution now because there's a special rule for fees relating to development. So this resolution wouldn't be effective for 60 days.
Okay.
So what would be the cap then for just the ADU? I guess it's the park impact fee.
Park impact fees.
So currently the single family dwelling park impact fee is in the neighborhood of $13,000. Staff has the exact number, so you can certainly pick whatever number you want. If you want to cap it at 50% or something like that, you could certainly do that, and staff could come up with whatever that amount is. We could come up with a hard number.
Well, I'm certainly open to ideas on the amount. I just think that what the amount does, much like the open space requirement, is it some ways shapes what kind of ADU can be developed or what somebody chooses is appropriate for them. And so I suspect that more people are going to ultimately plan on doing smaller ADUs than like a 1,200 square foot. I don't even know who really has lots with that capacity, quite honestly. I think those are probably very, very few and far between. But nevertheless, if somebody's building a 1,200 square foot ADU, I think then, the park impact fee should be fairly substantial. I mean, it's essentially another full unit.
So let me phrase this. With the maker of the motion, let's disregard capping that fee then. It feels like we're doing this somewhat arbitrarily as well, which I don't think is good territory for us to be in. But I would like to publicize what that number is broadly as part of that table that was put together in the staff report. So that's part of the FAQ. So at least we're setting the expectation for that. Does that sound okay to you, Councilmember Harlan?
It does, yes.
Okay. Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Comments from other council members? Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the discussion. Mayor Pro Tem, you touched on the 3 points I was hoping to touch on. I want to make sure I understand what the current motion is regarding the 40-foot setback. I thought I heard it in 2 ways. So is the current motion that we would allow second floor construction for an ADU with this 5-foot setback on the existing structure only if there's already 2-story construction, or
No, two
is
separate,
that a separate thing?
yeah, to either trigger.
Okay. So if you're already a 2-story home, you can build a bigger second story?
If you're already a 2-story home, then it's a 20-foot setback applies.
Right. So you could build a bigger second story, right?
Miss Lee, I think that my understanding was if the home itself is already 2 stories, and let's say we're building on top of the garage or another part of the home, then you could build that second floor within the 20 feet from the street.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so that still involves some new construction. There's a few different scenarios here, and I want to make sure I've got it right. Okay, so right, so I know it's sorry to belabor the point, just want to make sure I have it right. So if you have a home with second story construction already, you can build out an ADU up to that 20-foot setback, correct? Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Or if you have a single story home, you can build a second floor ADU at a 25-foot second story setback.
It's a 20-foot setback with a 5-foot articulation, so it's not flush with the existing wall. It's in a little bit.
Right. So effectively a 25-foot setback. Is that? I just want to make sure I'm understanding that right.
For the second story, yes. 20 foot for the first floor, 25 foot for the second floor.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
So Miss,
yeah,
sorry.
You want to clarify?
I do. I want to ask Ms. Lee if building a second story over an existing garage with an existing 2-story home, does that trigger our standard design guidelines then? Or are we saying this is separate because that new habitable space above the garage is strictly going to be an ADU?
I believe it's separate because state law requires us to adopt objective standards. So we wouldn't be applying our residential design guidelines in the same way. So the objective standards that we're outlining now are the standards that we would apply. I think that answers your question, does it?
Well, so I'm thinking, and again, it's hard without us having a diagram or a visual to work from, but I'm imagining a 2-story home with an attached garage, obviously just at a single story level, and someone builds an ADU above that garage. I believe that there still should be some recession, some so you don't just get now basically a mass that's 2 stories at 20 feet to the street. That's I think the problem we're trying to avoid.
Yes, so I think the 2 statements can be and statements, not or, so that we could apply both at the same time. So that you, under any circumstance, whether or not you have the primary dwelling as a 2-story dwelling, you are always getting that articulation because you have the 5-foot setback on the second story, the additional 5-foot setback on the second story.
Okay, that makes more sense. So the alternative scenario is that it's a single story home with a single story garage, and then an ADU is being developed over the garage. It's on 5-foot setback. I just want to get an understanding from Mayor Pro Tem Marr and Councilmember Reynolds, if that kind of visual is what you're thinking is appropriate and acceptable, and as it relates to, let's say, community character and culture.
Yes, for me, it's a positive. That's the example I'm thinking of in my neighborhood. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, it does. Actually, I don't know. It does have a 5-foot setback, even, but well, that 5 foot is a porch, which makes it look really nice. Does that qualify, Ms. Lee? If that 5-foot setback is an exterior porch?
Inu, Willie, can you weigh in on our how we treat our existing, how our residential design guidelines treat existing balconies where that 5-foot articulation is used for essentially usable space?
So the setbacks are measured to the post. The porch, if it's supported by a post, it would be considered the setback. So it would have to be, the porch structure would have to be set back 5 feet. So what I think you're referring to the photo that was submitted by one of the residents, and she had more like a balcony, and the balcony was covered. So it does have that like positive, negative space. We can allow it, you know, if it's an opening, or if it's open on 3 sides or something like that, we could include some kind of a guideline like that in the ordinance. If it's open on 3 sides.
Yeah, I think that solves the problem of the bulking massing, right? But it's, okay. Is that consistent with the current motion as you understand it? Or would we need to clarify that?
I think it needs to be clarified.
Ms. Lee, do you have any concerns that we're getting into like design guideline territory here? That's the hard part, is that like we're trying to keep this simple, but also and not also replicate our existing design guidelines.
Correct. We're always concerned when we start going into the territory of subjective design guidelines, but I think we're doing a good job here of articulating exactly what we're looking for, and as long as we do that, we're okay. It's not necessarily that we can't articulate some expectations for design. It's that we can't say we want this ADU to look nice and then leave it completely over to subjective judgment as to how to accomplish that. So I think we're okay here, and I'll keep glancing at Scott and Kim to ensure that they're not twitching too much. And as long as that's the case, then I think we're okay.
I think if the 5-foot setback is clear that there could be a balcony or an outdoor space, but that inside residential space has to be set back at least 5 feet. I think that's what everybody wants, and I think that we can accommodate that. I don't think what we want is a bunch of enclosures. So I know that staff can come up with the language that is necessary to ensure that we're not looking at something that is ostensibly outdoor space, but could theoretically really be indoor space because it's so enclosed. I think that's what we're looking for, right?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Barlow. Councilmember Reynolds, any other questions?
Yes, one more scenario. I want to make sure I understand. So we're still on the 2nd floor, existing envelope, existing 2nd floor. My understanding is if that 2nd floor exists today, or 2 years before an application is submitted, then you can convert it. But if you cannot convert sort of a 2-year new 2nd floor, is that correct? Did I get that right?
Definitely.
I believe you did. I'm going to look at Minu for a moment.
So if you're modifying the 20-foot or versus the 40-foot setback, that condition may not be applicable anymore. The idea was to prevent somebody building an addition at 20 feet and 2 years later coming back and converting it into an ADU.
Okay.
If that's not a major concern, then that can be modified.
Got it. Okay, because my memory was that condition was there to sort of prevent the gaming of someone building their own single-family home and then converting it. But since we're allowing that, that's okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking of a scenario where maybe over the next 5 years my family grows and I want to build a larger single-family unit, but then 10 years from now I want to convert that into an ADU when I'm an empty nester again or something, and that's going to be fine.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm done. Thank you. I appreciate all of the staff feedback and giving us some ideas to work with. So thank you.
Councilmember Reynolds, I can just tell you, having experienced this, that it will take a lot longer than 10 years to become an empty nester.
I was gonna
I've
say
got a
that,
different plan.
all right, council members. Any
Those
other
kids are going to boarding school.
any other comments from council?
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, I just wanted to get some clarification on the motion for the park impact fees. I believe I heard a recommendation to consider lowering the park impact fees for JADUs, but I wasn't clear on where we were going with that in the motion.
Yeah, so for the record, Councilmember Harlan, let's go through all of the modifications that we just discussed. I can do that if you weren't prepared to.
Yeah, no. If you're, I imagine you were taking good notes on that. So let's start with the park fees for JADU. I was proposing eliminating those fees.
Concur.
Okay. The 40-foot setback, we've decided to change to the 20-foot if there's an existing 2-story structure and the ADU will be built over the garage, and there's a 5-foot setback on the second story.
Concur.
Okay. What else did we have?
Parking.
Parking, yes. Eliminate the parking requirement citywide.
Concur.
I think that was.
Okay. Anything else from anybody else? Staff, clear?
There was discussion about setting a cap on ADU fees.
And then I reneged on that.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no other comments, City Clerk, let's get a vote.
Councilmember Reynolds? Councilmember Reynolds?
Been muted here too. Yes.
Councilmember Harper?
No.
Councilmember Harlan?
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-1 with Councilmember Harper voting no and Mayor Foley abstaining.
Excellent. Thank you everybody for all your hard work on that. I know planning has been working on this for years at this point. So I hope this is the culmination of all of those discussions. And then I will go to any final comments from council members. I don't think that the mayor wants to get called back for this. So anything else that anyone wants to add?
If I may add something, did we include the recommendation that staff provided in our presentation?
Which recommendation is that, Mr. Glupos?
Thank you very much, Mr. Klupos. I think in all the details, I just wanted to clarify that the motion included making the recommended changes that were included in staff's presentation. Those had to do with clarifying that the status of any existing ADU applications that we had already in plan check, that our intent is to continue to process those under the ordinance under which they were submitted. And then there was a second one that had a bit more of a nuance to it. Mr. Glupos, can you describe that?
Sorry, my computer it's lagging at this point. It might be just as tired as everyone else. So hold on. And I believe Scott did provide it as well. I think it's in regards to fees.
It's regarding the cap on the impact fee so that it does not exceed the current cap impact fee.
That was addressed in the motion. I
Yes.
think we're done with that.
All right,
Okay.
thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah. Can I ask a
Councilmember.
question? Sorry.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Sorry, I'm trying to raise my hand in both both
No, you're
places.
fine. Go ahead.
I have a question about the recommendation. I think the motion as it stands is a little bit less restrictive than the ordinance that we've had. So what is the reason? I'm just wondering if an application submitted prior to today, maybe doesn't comply 100% with the existing urgency ordinance, but does comply with what we've just passed. Why not apply the current ordinance or new ordinance?
Actually, I can respond to that. Councilmember Reynolds, we really can't do that. An ordinance has to have 2 readings, and then it takes 30 days for it to become effective. So if it was something that was thought before the urgency ordinance, we'll process it under those prior requirements. If it's been filed under the urgency ordinance, we'll continue to process it. If someone wants to wait for the second reading and the 30 days effective date, they can do that if they feel like that would be beneficial to them.
Thank you, Ms. Farley.
Okay, so anyone can just pull and resubmit an application under the new ordinance when it's fully adopted?
Absolutely.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, with that, any other final council member comments, reports? No, you all look beat. Okay, let's get out of here. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks, I believe. Take care.
Good night.